Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. This is the Facility Use Committee of the Lambertville Unified Board of Education. 6:33, we'll call this meeting to order. I'll call roll. I'm Matt Balsmery, the chair. Shane Nielsen.
Here.
Alvina Kaiser. Here. James Nolan. Here. Erica Smith-Payne. Here. And Corey Strzok.
Here.
Okay, we have a quorum. Facility use update. Item A is denied applications. So we have 3. Item 1 is Altamont Pass Academy, Mountain House High School, Wednesday, Thursday, April 1st through June 4th. Alvina?
And I can let Lori speak to this too, but we were not able to accommodate them.
Okay, any other information as far as why?
The gyms were already full, and we had it booked with a nonprofit organization that was Mountain House that took precedence over their Tier 3.
Okay, and item 2 is Mountain House CSD Community Meeting on May 21st.
I think that was also not the 30 days required notice, and I don't think the facilities were also available then either.
Okay, and item 3 was LDC developers for the high school quad area behind the grass field.
We did not have any prices available for that. We were not allowing any field use, so we denied that application as well.
No high school use based on prior meetings. Item B, unapproved use notification.
We went ahead and included in our agenda any organizations that were using facilities without going through the proper channels, and this was an entity that was discovered to be using the facilities. They didn't rent the facilities, and there were others that wanted to use the field.
The cricket folks use the fields?
Wickland and Bethany Fields.
Yeah, they do sort of. It's not the whole field, but the game itself takes place in the basketball court and then uses a portion of the Wickland field.
right.
Is it an organized
Yeah, because I didn't
group?
think
It's an organized league, or is it just some people who get together to play cricket?
Group. I'm looking at Lori because she deals with all of this stuff day in, day out.
I thought it was more of a.
I think that makes a difference, I think.
They're a Mountain House organization. They did not go through the facility use. It was notified to me from the school, and it was one weekend. And then so the following weekend, I went to each school to see if I could find them, to let them know the process to apply through facility use, and I couldn't find them. So that's how that happened.
But I do think we should clarify, at least to some extent, if every time I've ever gone past that group, they're regularly out at the Wickland field, and they're usually not on the fields. They're on the basketball court. I don't think they're a league. I don't think they're a structured community group. I think it's just a pickup game, like kids going to play basketball. And I don't think the intent is for us to prevent that kind of stuff.
No, definitely
except
not.
when the fields are already being used by someone else and it's restricting that purpose. So was that the case, that we had a complaint from someone that?
We did receive a complaint.
But
That the
was it
reason
from
why we
someone who was
followed
using
through.
the field or had priority to use the field? Because I don't think anyone's been using Wickland Field, so I don't see how that can happen.
No, it was actually at Bethany, and there was stakes, and a portion of the turf was ripped up, where the grass section was, and so I just wanted to let
That
them
is a
know.
different thing. They would put the stakes in the ground, yeah. Okay, all right.
And if I recall, didn't we make accommodations at Lambertville to provide for
That
cricket?
got taken out though, didn't it?
I don't remember.
There's a cricket patch at Central. I guess that's not a school, so
There's
it's
a cricket
not
pitch
terribly
at
relevant.
Central. Didn't they take the cricket field at Lambersville? We had it a few years
I
ago.
don't know if there's anything out there.
Okay. That was a while ago, so. Okay, staff can follow up on that, continue to see if we can try and get a hold of somebody.
Just to clarify, if it is just a pickup game, then our rules do not apply, is that right? Aside from the fact that they're not allowed to break our stuff.
Unless, of course, someone shows up with a permit because they've
Right.
gone through the proper
Right.
channels. Yes.
There's a conflict.
And then they would have a permit with them
Right.
to say, we've paid the fees for the use of this field.
Thank you.
Item C, change of tier status notification.
When we first began this process, there was a handful of organizations that had applied for use of facilities. And what we found is some of those organizations were not truly the tiers that they had been renting the facilities for, because they had been that way for some period of time. But we are finding that we have some organizations that are for-profit that got under the window of non-profit status. So we let that ride out since they were already grandfathered in, but approaching the new year, we stated, you'll need to follow the rules that the board policy has put in front of us. So we will need to change you unless you can prove otherwise. We need to change you to a higher tier, which is the tier 3 for profit. So I just kind of wanted to bring forward, because I know we have an organization that may be here that would like to be grandfathered in, basically, under the rules that they had been falling under for quite a number of years.
Okay. Are there any organizations that are not listed on the agenda? You can come on up. This is different than a board meeting. It's because it's a committee meeting, we're able to actually engage in conversation and trying to work through some of these issues.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. John Domke, my wife Celeste Domke, who actually owns the company, who owns Kumgong Taekwondo. I take care of the business side. So nice to meet you. I think what the issue came about was when last year I came in front of the entire school board and talked when we were going to do the facility use agreement. And back then, there was never any conversation about whether we were for-profit or nonprofit. So I want to make sure that it's clear that we never represented ourselves as a nonprofit organization. In the original facility use agreement, it actually listed our company name by name under Tier 2A. So it was never like nonprofit, Kumgong Taekwondo. Not that we were making any money, but under the definitions, legal definitions of a nonprofit, that is not what we are, even though we don't really make a whole lot of money. The first time we actually started making money is when you guys stopped charging us to use the facility last year. So anyhow, I think part of the issue of going to Tier 3, and I don't know if it's not horrific, because the cost to use the gym is what we were paying before you guys took away the fees last year.
It's close. It's a little bit more, but it's close.
It's gone up a little bit. The issue we had last year when I came in front of the board was that we were being charged at that time for a custodian. And I thought that was kind of ridiculous, because the custodian was there anyhow doing her normal duties, and we weren't interfering with them. If anything, the gym was already filthy when we got there anyhow, and after we left, then they cleaned the gym. But we were paying for a janitor that had to clean it anyhow. It wasn't like we made it dirty after the fact. So that was my concern when I talked to Lori about the new fee structure. It's like, all right, well, obviously if we're a profit organization and the board feels like they need to charge us for it, this is going on to our 9th year of using Bethany. We've been there since the very beginning. We've been a very good tenant. We've always paid our bills. We've never made a mess, never had any incidents ever. Our insurance is always exactly what you guys want. But the concern is that if we are going to start paying, there's definitely some confusion looking through this, because we normally use it on Monday through Thursday from 6 to 8 p.m. And then the $200 damage deposit, that's like, wow, that's a lot of money. And when do we pay that? And do we pay that every single time? Because last year we had to apply to use the facility, twice?
We did a fall application and then a winter application.
So is that $200 and then another $200 and then?
Separate applications for each testing.
Yeah, then we do 3 testings per year when they go and they test for their next belt levels. So there'd be another deposit and then an application fee of, what was it, $40? So again, $40 in this fall, $40 in this winter, $40 for each testing. In my mind, I'm the businessman, I'm the money guy. I'm thinking, wow, this is really getting to be kind of a money pit for something we've been using all along, and we've been good stewards of the facilities, and we appreciate you guys letting us have them, of course, because it helps us. But we're also, I think we're giving a nice service to our community. There's nothing else like martial arts in our area. The closest one is Tracy, at least 8 to 9 miles away. And our customers that we have are not interested in going to Tracy. They like having something locally that their kids, a lot of them just ride their bikes right up to class and participate. And we've even expanded last year, 2 years ago, where we do 3 to 6-year-olds now. We didn't used to take anybody under 7 except under extreme circumstances because they were difficult, but we bought into a rather expensive program that does specialized for 3 to 6-year-olds, actually 3 to 4-year-olds and 5 to 6-year-olds, and we pay a royalty fee for that. And it does cost us a lot of money, but it was a great service, and a lot of the parents really enjoy that. So I just wanted to get that out there, but wanted to explain that there's definitely a lot of confusion in this, which is why I came tonight, just to try to get a better understanding from you guys. And where we're at, because it's definitely different than it used to be the old way.
Okay.
Are there any questions, or?
Do you guys charge a fee per class?
We charge $99 a month per student. And then if there's more than one person in the family, then they get a 25% discount for each family member. We also offer scholarships. We've had a few families that couldn't afford it. And actually in most of the cases, I just kind of ask them what they feel they should pay. And sometimes it's, $35 a month? And in some cases, it's just been absolutely free. So, and some people are no cost, so we do let them come in that way. And we have one mom. We have one mom out of all that, but everybody else is pretty much 3 to 14, pretty much.
Let me address some of the comments you've made up to this point, and maybe that will help steer the conversation. So, while we appreciate the fact that you're providing a service for the youth in this community, our primary objective is to make sure that the facilities are available for school organizations and for our students.
And we've always accommodated. We've always
Well,
stepped out.
Over the years, that's become more and more difficult. There's been a number of different organizations popping up. So the school board created this committee to try and look at some of these issues. In doing so, we're continuing to find more and more problems. So this is a standing committee that we meet monthly to try and go over new issues as they arise. So a lot of these issues, because you've been around for a long time, you're seeing some of them change to rectify the problems. And then when we rectify one problem, we create another problem. So we understand your pain and we sympathize, and you have our sincere apologies for that.
It's great to
However-
see the progress. I mean, I like the online application. That's really cool. That was another thing too. If we can't apply until the 1st of September, by rule, we can't even start using the gym till October 1st. Well, our year is September 1st. It's actually the school year. Whatever the school year is our year. And then when you guys aren't in business, we use Central Park for June, July, then August we just take off, because honestly, by that point, we need a break.
Understood. As far as the janitor's concerned, you're right. That was an error on our part that we were charging for a janitor. We've changed that rule now. I don't know if you've read the new handbook, but we've addressed it.
It's one of those things where it's kind of, because it says 2-hour minimum to unlock if less than 2 hours before end of custodian's regularly scheduled workday. Well, they get done, I think, at 10, and we get done at 8, so that's 2 hours, so that's like, it's borderline. I just want to make sure that we're right in that level.
Right. If you finish at 8, there's no charge.
Perfect,
So,
thank you.
The new fee structure, we had to establish a fee structure. We have to try and recoup some of the wear and tear on these facilities. All the money that we collect goes into a separate account that's specifically geared towards wear and tear at that specific facility. So, and then as far as all these other questions about paying twice, it's all articulated in the handbook. One application you can do it, make your reservation upfront for the whole year, one charge. We're really trying to hammer out these issues. If you want to, I'm sure you can meet with Alvina to discuss these other specific issues, but I think the big question that you have is, why you're here tonight, is what tier do you fall in?
Yeah, and like I said, I understand if we get moved to Tier 3, we get moved to Tier 3. We've just always been under Tier 2A, and that's just, originally, we were in the original handbook listed. There was
Understood.
us and Wolverines and a few other people that were in there.
We just created this committee a year ago?
A year ago.
Yeah. So we sat down, started looking at these issues, and we started doing comparisons to other school districts. And as far as some of our fields are concerned, we had to start comparing ourselves to cities, park and rec that belong to cities, because that's kind of how we're operating due to the lack of amenities in this community. So as we started to do that, we tried to align ourselves with other districts, and based on your organization, you are now at Tier 3.
Okay.
So that's kind of where we're at. Some of these other specific questions, like I said, work with Alvina. If issues arise or there's conflicts, Alvina can bring it back to the committee, we can hammer it out.
Okay.
And when we have that meeting, you'll have the opportunity to come back, and we've changed on several things many times, so you'll definitely have that opportunity.
Well, I think that's part of it too. From today's agenda, you guys have got coming the action items. There's some people asking to use the facilities, and we're just concerned that we're not even allowed to apply until the 1st of September, but there may be other people that get approved right now that bump us completely out where we were expecting to go. Plus, we're kind of hoping to get in on September, not October.
Well, and that's one of the issues, because I noticed in preparing that there's a conflict in this whole application process. We have to clean that up, because the intent behind that was we have to wait for the site administrators to get back so they can tell us what their sites are going to do and reserve stuff for their sites first. Last year, we displaced our own school basketball team. They had to go practice outside because somebody else used the inside gym. That's unacceptable.
Yeah, we would never do that. And every time they've ever asked us, we've told our people, hey, we go practice outside while you guys use the inside, because you have priority. We know that.
I understand, and we're trying to make sure this is fair and equitable for all, and that our school sites come first.
All right.
I have some committee members have questions.
I actually have a question. What about their organization doesn't qualify them for Tier 2A? It says supervised youth recreational activities sponsored by official youth organizations, leagues, and serving the residents of the Lambertville Unified School District. Activities for LUSD youth that charge fees. You yourself started your statement asking them if they served the youth. You actually said that they were an activity that served the youth. So why did they not qualify? I know that they're for profit, so they could qualify for Tier 3, but what disqualifies them from qualifying for Tier 1, 2A?
Actually, just on top of it, it says, all users must provide proof of nonprofit status for tiers 2A and 2B. It's actually on top of the schedule right here. Yeah, so. And if I could, I just,
All right.
did you have more questions?
No, I missed that page. It's good.
If I could clarify too, and it's unfortunate you guys got caught on the switches, but as Mr. Balzerini would point out, and we've pointed out at several meetings, what you guys have gone through is the reason this all had to happen. We had some groups who were for-profit getting non-for-profit status, other groups who were nonprofit getting for-profit status, and there was no consistency across the schools. That each school had its own little decision on how to manage it, what they would charge, when they would charge, who they would give keys to, and not for naught, if you owned all these buildings, that's the last thing as the business person you would ever allow to happen.
That's
There's
why I
gotta
wanted
be
to
a
make it clear that
consistency.
we weren't misrepresenting ourselves ever. As soon as Lori sent me the message, I said, oh, no, we're pro, I guess, a little bit.
You don't qualify as not-for-profit.
You're
Whether you make an
like
actual profit is not the same.
$4,000 in taxes last year, yeah.
I just wanted to clarify that it's, you guys, you're not the reason, you're not the cause, but it's what you've gone through is the reason this committee exists, that we're creating a handbook, is to try to create some consistency so that if someone wanted to do something similar as a for-profit, they would know exactly what the rules are, exactly how to go through the process, and wouldn't have to hear, oh, well, so-and-so knew this person and they got it, or so-and-so talked to this person and they got it. And we don't want that. The community doesn't need that, and you guys as business people or the nonprofits don't need to have an inconsistency across the board, so.
And thank you for acknowledging the software, because I'm glad we went to that, and we had to create parameters to streamline the process. So that was another reason why we had to do that, so.
I just hope September 1, we can apply and get in very, very quickly. Like September 2nd? No. But, I understand, but hopefully not October 1st, because that's,
Well,
it's bad business, because they don't want to practice outdoors. They want to practice in the nice gym. It's like, yeah, trust me, we do too.
I understand that, and that's a discussion we're going to have tonight.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other organizations that are not listed on the agenda that would like to, okay. High school track, signage for the track update.
We do have signage for the track, and I put a copy of it out for you. I did send it to Lieutenant George. He's out until the 24th.
Okay.
But we did include some penal code sections on this, and this will be used on the high school track. Probably have to come up with a little bit of different language for the elementary
Weren't we getting two
sites.
signs? Weren't we getting a second sign?
I don't think we had to do that.
Okay.
Oh, wait, all the rules.
Yeah. No gum, no
Actually,
spikes.
and I took a picture of
no-
one. I was a,
Those were already there.
Yes, they are.
Oh, are they? Oh, okay, awesome. Okay.
Sunflower seeds, cleats, so forth.
right, okay.
Yes.
Super.
Do you have a question, Corey?
I was going to ask how many signs we're buying, but it's not terribly relevant.
Do we know?
These particular ones, we ordered a dozen
And those are all going to go on the track? Or, I mean, on the fence surrounding the track?
with all the other signs, yes.
Okay.
Which everyone reads and adheres to at all times.
Item E, additional law enforcement patrols.
Well, I think once we get the signs up, then we can make an effort to have people contact when they're not following the law.
But right now, they don't have any enforcement capabilities
That's
without
correct.
this, right?
Without that, and then we also need to have someone that's available that can come out that will say that they're willing to sign a citizen's arrest because it's a misdemeanor. So
You can give them my name.
maybe that's,
If I'm here, I will walk over.
Actually, I don't think you can.
As a board member?
Yeah, I don't think you can. You got to be an employee.
Okay.
Yeah.
Corey's
So,
like, I'll do it.
Maybe we can
I'm
map
pretty
something out
close,
offline and bring it back to the committee for input.
Sounds good.
Because if a board member can do it, I'd be happy to. But if it has to be an employee,
We'll definitely check. We'll find out.
yeah.
There you go. Okay, item F, civics permit software update.
As you know, we've been using the software program for quite some time, and there's a couple of reports that I thought any facility organization could use, but we found out that wasn't the case. But what we will be doing is including in the packets from here on out these reports. I'm going to put that up there. A little larger. This is the facility usage across the district by location. This is all sites. This particular report can be run by groups. We're checking with civic permits about being able to select more than one group. If we just wanted to see, because I have to log in. But if I select here, it will only let me select one group. So Lori and I were also going to check to see if by tiers we could run this report. Because as you can see, we can only do it by one specific group or a single site. But here if you look across here, the multi-purpose rooms within the district are being used by.
Is this usage or is, because it says permitted?
Facility usage, number of hours,
So it's not hours permitted, it's hours used.
yes.
Okay.
2,750 in this multi-purpose room, and then there's another report I ran. This actually shows the usage within the district and the time, so obviously rentals do not occur until 3:30 and on, so you can see the largest hour of usage is between 6 p.m. and starts to decline by 8 p.m. up through 10. So I just thought this was a very helpful report. We'll start putting these also on the website as separate reports, and I'll probably run them maybe by month or quarter, but they will also be coming to the committee.
Well, you're talking about permitted, I mean, I think,
No, it's permitted, as in they applied for a permit, as opposed to permitted, as in you have permission to use it. I was reading the two
Yes.
words of the, I get language.
Interesting report.
no, I appreciate that. That definitely paints a picture of why we're here tonight.
Even classroom
I'm a little
use.
thrown up by that because we haven't, where is the softball field? Because we haven't allowed use of the baseball or softball fields, and I didn't think we were either. Are we renting out the softball and baseball fields?
No, those are at the elementary, the K through 8s. The softball and baseball fields are not reflected because they're not available at the high school.
Right, so where do we call softball field then? Because
That's being changed for the 215-16 school year, where we're going to split field fees. I'm going to call it Field 1, Field 2, K-8 through sites. And then what was reflected of 14-15 will look like this, and then on the future ones, you'll see K-8, Field 1, Field 2, regardless.
okay.
Any comments from the committee about reflection, how often we should have it updated on the website? Is it monthly, quarterly?
I'd say quarterly. I don't see any reason to have it monthly.
Okay, thank you. Is there anything else with the software that you want to report? No?
No,
Okay.
it's coming along nicely.
Item G, reimbursement to organizations. There's three, Mountain House High School Wolverine, or MHHS Wolverines, advanced cancellation for the high school event. Tracy Spartans, advanced cancellation, and Church of Christ, advanced cancellation.
There's really no, they just canceled in the amount of time that they're supposed to cancel.
I have a question. Why is it the MHHS Wolverines, the Mountain House High School Wolverines?
Is it just MH Wolverines?
Typo.
Oh,
It's just-
okay.
It's supposed to be Mountain House
Mountain House
Wolverines.
Wolverines?
Okay.
Same question I had, like, not allowed to do that.
Have it. MHHS.
And finance report.
Oh, the staff hours are actually in your packet. They were too large to put into the file. And because obviously the facility use started to not be as demanding towards the end of the year, she was able to spend some time, but the average came out to 2.6 per day.
2.6 hours per day. So just for refresher for everyone, we'd asked staff to provide a report on how many staff hours are being required to work on facility use requests.
Facility use requests for entities outside the school district, correct? We're not counting
No, for this report, it was for both.
For everything? Okay.
Yeah, just,
That's a good
as
question.
far as the sites are concerned, they just put it in and it's done, right? I mean, there's no,
Right, but if you're doing stuff like I would say, this would be my question. If you're doing stuff for the Wickland School Foundation, are we considering that school time or non-school time? I mean, I would think that that's part of what we would be paying a position within the school district to do rather than help with the soccer or the football.
Correct. And then the elementary office managers, they also enter their own.
Right?
So she's not spending the time to kind of
software
see
just
so
does
much
that
of those.
automatically. That was the purpose of software.
But if we were to take the 2.6 hours, it would equate to about $14,000 if you take this average. Of course, there's more times where she's spending, 6 hours in a day sometimes, or just 4, but.
Right, well, I mean, a
it
few
seemed
months
like the
ago, it
longest
was,
time
a few months ago, it was half of our time, right?
Yes.
So
Doing
that's,
significantly better.
well, at least summertime, that little break is nice.
Yes, it was.
Okay, so next is information discussion items, and item A is the Mountain House CSD and joint use. It's kind of two topics in one. So the first part of this is a presentation by Dr. Nicholas about kind of joint use and our facilities where we're at.
Good evening, Mr. President, committee members. It's my pleasure to speak a little bit about joint use facilities in our district and the future of facilities and working with our community members. So as luck would have it, the thing that I would be looking at is a blank. And so I don't have a blank stare. If you're all right, I'm going to stand over there and speak to it so I can see it.
Turn the podium, so
Oh, I can
at least
do
we
that,
get you
yeah.
on, or do you have a mic? Oh, if you use that mic,
Yeah.
okay, that's
Okay.
perfect. That'll be fine.
So, got the clicker?
Thanks.
So it's entitled Funding Needs Mountain House High School Phase 3 and Hansen Elementary because we're kind of coming to a crossroads as a community in terms of our district's ability to provide facilities and absorb all the needs. So the best we can offer right now is to say that if we were to finish out our big projects, which Hansen is on deck, and Mountain House High School Phase 3, we would be able to provide our students with, again, exceptional facilities, but also provide more services to our community. So the purpose of the presentation tonight is really about communicating the realities of our facilities and how our facilities are paid for and built. Two, to talk about potential future uses with our CSD friends in the community in terms of genuine joint use projects. And finally, explain Mountain House High School Phase 3, the building of Hansen Elementary School, in the context of the community needs more than what we can accommodate. And so I think that things are coming to a head in the sense that if we are the only institution that is providing facilities and they're all booked, then there's going to be a lot of disappointed folks out there. So I think we offer some potential solutions in the purpose of this. Now, this is the part that's probably the least exciting of my presentation, so I apologize. I'm going to talk about some terminology, but the way schools are funded, California school finance, it's a bizarre science, but I'm hoping to be able to very briefly hit the big ideas to create the picture and the context, so when we get to talking about our facilities, it makes sense. So the other thing is any money that's referenced here has been rounded up or down because it's better to talk about this stuff in simple math. So MELLO ROOS taxes is how we pay for our K-8 school sites. It's a tax that you pay a fee when you buy the property to build your tax. Mountain House, like I said, our K-8 schools are paid through them. And in some instances, the mechanism that I'll cover in a second called the CFD, you can take additional funds that are left over after a big project and apply them to other projects in the district. It's not in every case in our district, but in some cases the answer is yes. And finally, if you heard the term special tax, it's synonymous with MELLO ROOS. A CFD is the mechanism. Think of it like an escrow account. Money is collected, it goes into an account, and then it goes and pays for the bills on the big projects that we're building. We currently have 3 CFDs, one from 2002 that supports Wickland, Bethany, and Altamont, 2007-1, which is Cuesta, and our board approved one in 2014 for Hansen Elementary School, which is yet to be built, and is annexable into Neighborhood D, which is on the southeast side of our high State matching funds, this is the single greatest stressor that we have in our facilities use, because state matching funds are related to state construction bonds that go to ballot initiatives. And the last one that was passed was in 2006. All of those funds have been fully committed, and as a result, any big projects that are on the books plans, such as HANSEN or matching funds to some of our other school sites, can only come to our district through a new state construction bond. Now, the good news on that is the paperwork required to get matching funds for the HANSEN project is long. We've been working on this for a long time, and we're just about done. So we need a state bond to be passed in order for us to finish the big ideas that the community master developer plan promises. So developer fees, this is another controversial piece, because developers are in the business of building and providing things, but they're also in the business to make money. One of the things one of the things that is required of them is to provide developer fees in certain instances. A developer fee is a long-term loan. It is paid back to the developer who fronts the money with interest. The developers in our community, it's based on the Marshall-Swift Index, which has a 2.2% interest rate today. And basically what happens is the money's given up front. They're paid back over a long period of time, the long-term build-out of a project, through the fees assigned to lots. So here's how it works in Mountain House. Developer fees paid for a portion of Phase 1 and Phase 2 of Mountain House High School, $52 million. If we build in Mountain House 250 houses per year, we sell lots, $5,900 from each of those lots gets put forward to pay off the long-term loan from the developer. So if you apply that amount with 2.2% interest, it'll take about 32 to 35 years for the developers to be paid back. Thus far, since we've been working on Mountain House High School for a while, the developers have been paid back $5 million. So of their $52 million loan, they are net waiting for $47 million to come. Shortfall funding is also another very important fast growth district term, because if all of the vehicles to get paid to build a project don't exist, the only thing you can do is go to the developer and declare through the agreements that we have a shortfall. So in those cases, developers pay money, they get paid back over interest, they front the money, and then they get paid back through MELLO, ROOS taxes, developer fees, or state funding. In some of the situations that we're running into, the state match for HANSEN, for example, if there is no state construction bond, the only way to get the additional 25% to build the amazing schools we have is to go to the developer for that shortfall. So these are very real terms when you start thinking about how much building's going on in Neighborhood C, which is now called HANSEN. Mitigation agreements are the rules. Any developer that comes into a community is going to leave an impact. They have to mitigate that. We have two, one signed with Trimark in '98, one signed with Tracy Unified back in '98 before we unified. The community master plan develops the whole story for our community. What's most important for our district are the neighborhood and village concepts, where a K-8 school is promised in the neighborhoods and all the infrastructures that go along with it. Also, I want to include their town center. The only building in town center presently is the building you're in, and it's the school districts. Exhibit B is the school facilities phasing schedule. That's what we're required to follow in order to make a decision about when and how a school is going to be built. And Exhibit B is a significant albatross for our district in terms of funding, simply because when it was set up starting in 1994 and running through '98, they didn't set it up in a way that the increased costs of the world we live in today are kept up with by the Marshall-Swift Index. Therefore, we have Phase 3 of Mountain House High School to figure out how to build. So this is a picture of all the neighborhoods. You can't quite see it, but each one that has a letter represents schools that are either being built or slated to be built. Neighborhood D there in the bottom right is the one that's just now being talked about starting to develop infrastructure. So things are moving rapidly. The master plan and how they were funded. So Lammersville Elementary, I put it in here for a kind of a joke, but it was established Wickland Elementary is based on that CFD from 2002 and was also helped built by developer fees. That started in 04 and 07, Bethany with a state match. Cuesta 2007-1, that's a different CFD, state match. Altamont, the CFD from 2002 and a state match. And Mountain House High School, it's important to differentiate because people get confused. Developer fees or a long-term loan paid for $52 million of that, but a mitigation agreement with Tracy brought in developer fees and that were pooled over time, and state match, which is phase 1 and phase 2. So this is the rendering of Hansen Elementary School. In order for us to build this school, the MELLO ROOS taxes in that CFD are not enough. We need state matching funds. Without state matching funds, we will not be able to build this. So either we're going to have to go and declare shortfall and ask the developers to pay the additional part, which will require a fight, or we're going to have a state construction bond passed, and I'll talk about that in a short time. The approximate cost in 2014 was $32 million to build that school. About 75% will come from MELLO ROOS taxes, which is approximately $22 million from the CFD established in 2014. The difference will have to come, as I said, state matching funds from the construction bond. And again, our district is doing the paperwork to get approved, and we are going to go on the list for all the people in the state who are asking for money, so that when the money, if it does come through a bond, we'll be on the list as fast as possible. Mountain House High School Phase 1 and Phase 2. So getting all the paperwork together, starting the project, and building the first main section is Phase 1. Phase 2, that's the building we're most proud of here. Phase 2 has to do with the sports facilities and the other building. I'll give you the list here in a second. For $93 million, Phase 1 and Phase 2 were built. Phase 1 was, like I said, the getting it ready, and then admin building, multi-use room and gym. Phase 2 of the sports field, stadium, classroom wing. $52 million from the developer fees as a long-term loan. $11 million from Tracy mitigation agreement, and matching funds for $30 million. So that at build out is $93 million. What is not built, and it's important for this joint use conversation, is we are busting at the seams. Imagine if we had a theater, a library, an aquatic center that's built for swim meets, diving, youth pool activities, and the like, and a vocational ed program, and a building, including, and then finally some ancillary projects that make our facilities nice. There is no money or funding for Phase 3. That goes all the way back to mitigation agreements. It goes all the way back to the Marshall-Swift Index and a miscalculation on the people who envisioned our community, that what they put in that original documentation would be enough to pay for a high school. So that's clearly one of our most significant challenges to overcome. So really quickly, this is what our theater looks like today. It's some lovely bark. It has a fence in the middle of it. This is what the theater is supposed to be. It's 524 seats. It has multiple classrooms with a drama room, a choir room, a band room, and a dance room. This is our library today and media center. Again, we went with the bark theme and a fence. But imagine now a room, a piazza of kids gathering together, speaking with kids across the world in communication rooms, figuring out big projects, all the stuff that we're doing with our high school. Again, Phase 3. This is the aquatic center. It's to the south of our high school football stadium. It would be built there. And it would probably be our first opportunity, if we are able to fund it, to do a true joint use with our friends at the CSD and our community in terms of youth swimming events, youth teams, all the way through our retired folks coming in and getting some exercise at certain times during the day. So this is what it would look like. It's not as pretty as the other ones, but you can get a sense of where it would be. And this is our voc ed building, where we would be able to do some industrial arts tied to college and career readiness and the like. And this is what it would look like from the architect's perspective. The one on the left is where the snack bar restroom at the football stadium would be, and the one to the right is where our tennis courts would be, and a field house to store equipment for our soccer teams and baseball and softball. So here's the reality. Theater today would cost $9.8 million, library $4.9 million, an aquatic center with solar heating, which is what we would need to do in order to afford to maintain it, about $3 million. Voc-Ed building about $2.7 million. Some of the other costs are a total of about $27.2 million. That's a 2015 estimate. The annual escalation is 5%. So every year that passes that we don't figure this out, then those prices go up by 5%. And what we're being told is, even though we're in San Joaquin County, the construction costs from East Bay are coming over the hill to us. So all of this stuff is subject to the housing recovery that's in this little pocket. But it's also really tied to the fact that the sooner we can get these built, the sooner we can provide more opportunities for our community. And most importantly for a guy like me is these are all for the kids. So we can rent these things, we can offer these type of facilities to our community. There are opportunities here for joint use. However, if they don't exist, and if our town center continues to be weeds, then what we're doing is we're not providing anything and having a lot of conversations about what we could be. These are all DSA approved. They are all ready to go, other than that little small factor of $27.2 million. So the reality, Mr. President, is no funding mechanism exists. The developers have said that they have fulfilled their contractual obligation because in the original documentation, it said what it said, and that equals $52 million of developer fees, a long-term loan of which they get paid back that money over time plus 2.2% interest. So that's strike one. Number two, Governor Brown is not supporting state construction bonds. So in 2014, in spite of unanimous support in both houses of our legislature, he shot down a 2014 bond, single-handedly. He's not supporting a 2016 state construction bond. So, CSBA, California School Boards Association, and CASH, the California Coalition of Adequate School Housing, have formed a partnership. And our board president, Matt Balzerini, is a CSBA Region 8 director, and he represents CSBA and the work that they're doing to lobby to get more support from the governor and the state. So what CASH and CSBA have done is they've formed a ballot initiative. It sounds like this week they're getting the amount of signatures they need to go around the legislature and the governor directly to the ballot for a California school construction bond for 2016 in November. So that's very important for us because we already have approximately $10.6 million of state matching funds frozen at the state because they ran out of the 2006 bond money. It all got allocated, and the governor blocked the 2014 bond. So we are already suffering the ill effects of no state construction bond as we speak, and as the construction prices go up. So it is a crisis for us here in the district. It's a crisis for the community because of the lack of facilities and the fact that everything we have has already been identified for use. And our kids deserve the school that the developers promised at our high school, with an aquatic center, with a voc-ed room, with a library, media center, and with a theater that can be used for all the fine arts that we're working on now. So with that said, that's here's where we stand. Here are our opportunities for joint use, or could be, and I'll turn it back to you, sir.
So based on that, I wanted this presentation tonight. The board already had this presentation, and I wanted the committee to see this presentation because there's going to be a lot of work to be done as we try and deal with this issue and try and figure out what we're going to do and how we're going to fund some of these facilities. As committee members, you guys are seeing the use. You know how bad we need some of these facilities. That Shakespeare in the Park would have been perfect at a theater. That was would be the perfect venue for it. So the board hasn't really given any direction yet, but I'm hoping that when they do, that they'll consider having this committee also be part of the work to try and find some solutions. So, any questions?
I feel like the community is just going to ask if you've blocked off access to the track, for example, and that was theoretically under joint use. or at least it was talked about as joint use prior to the building of the high school and the track, what would cause the situation to not occur again with, say, a theater or an aquatic center? I would just make sure that that's addressed.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, those are all things that we'd have to work through. I mean, we don't have a joint use agreement with anyone right now. There was a joint use agreement that was written back with the CSD, but that no longer exists, and I haven't heard anything about writing a new one. So as far as true joint use, with joint use, there's usually funds from both parties that are using the facility. So
Eventually, that question's going to come up, so I just figured I'd
community
ask.
use is something different, and again, that's why this committee was formed. And the board ultimately made that decision because there were a lot of unanswered questions, but as we grow and have more staff, that might change. Okay, and the second part of this presentation was, or second part of this discussion item was for the CSD to come up and have, I guess, some questions and maybe have some dialogue about facility use.
I'll speak to this microphone. Hi, my name's Ed Pattison. I'm the general manager of Mountain House CSD, and I appreciate the opportunity to be here. First time, beautiful facility. I think Dr. Nicholas did a great job with that presentation, and I appreciate being here and being able to share a few comments. I've been here 7 months now as the general manager of the CSD, and it has been a fight just about every day on every front with everything that's going on. So it's been quite a challenge to just get through today. But I have heard, and I do understand, that I believe the board is interested in a joint use agreement. I'm a little fuzzy on the details of what that means, how it would get implemented. But I know, and I do hear from the community that is Amhersville Unified School District, and as a CSD that receives rates and property taxes and everything from our community, that we should make the most use of what we can do together to provide the best service to the people of Mountain House. I think everyone agrees with that notion. The devil's always in the details. So for now, I just want to leave you with the general statement that I believe that there are opportunities. I think the CSD board is interested in perhaps a committee of the CSD working with your committee here might be able to make some real tangible progress and have something perhaps by the end of the year. I'll leave you with that because I don't know the details right now. I don't even know what it would look like. But there's certainly discussions and opportunities. As you know, this is a growing community. We're going to get through this current water situation. It will continue to grow and be a great community. So with that growth, there are going to be opportunities and challenges. But I think that if we could get two committees working between the CSD and this committee working together, I think we can see some good products that both boards could probably accept and adopt and share in those opportunities. So that's my general comment, and I know Ms. Angel Lamb's here to talk about some of the details of this past year.
Thank you for being here, and I feel comfortable speaking on behalf of our board that we absolutely want to work with the CSD and wherever there's crossover, especially around facility use, we want to create a good working relationship and try and make as much progress as we can.
Look forward to it.
Mr. Balzerini is a little more diplomatic than I am. I just wanted to point out for you that this isn't the first push from this side of the table to try to get this going. I understand you can't answer for your predecessors, but the members of your board have existed in those capacities for several years, and they have heard this. I'm a little frustrated on this side of the table that this continues to be a, well, yeah, we should probably talk about that. Well, yeah, last year, 2 years ago. I at this point, it's just kind of frustrating that, for example, you guys all have a board meeting and talk about building facilities or not building facilities and using our facilities, and I don't believe a member of our staff or a member of our board was informed that that was going to even take place. So I'm a little curious about that, and I would say that this is the reason this needs to be a conversation, that I get that you have a lot of things on your plate, and I get that you have a lot of plates in the air. Our own superintendent is in a similar situation, but he would attest to the fact that we've been pestering him for a long time to try to get something done on this front. I'm hoping that this isn't just a year from now, we'll say, yeah, you're right, we should probably talk about that.
If I may, Dr. Nicholas somewhat new, we're both new, I believe, and I think you do have fresh faces, and while there may be some existing board members still on the boards, I think every day is a new day. I'm always the type of leader, we need to look forward, and I don't know what's happened in the past. I think there are opportunities. When you talk about the board meeting where they discussed community facility, that came up at the last minute, wasn't even in the budget. And Ms. Lamb came up to me shortly just before the board meeting and said, I'd really like to do something with recreation, the youth in our community. I said, why don't we ask for a temporary modular as a community facility? So it really came up at the last minute. There really wasn't any notice to the board or to the community. It was something that we thought we'd like to bring to the board and see if we could get them to approve it. And I think there was general support for that. But it was overshadowed by the discussion on the special taxes and whether or not to raise them. And as a result of the decision by that board on not raising special taxes, the temporary community facility went away. And I think that there's still a real desire on the board to do something. The question always comes down, where's the money coming from and how are we going to pay for it? And so I'm not going to go into detail on that right now, but if this board or committee felt like they weren't notified in advance, it's because no one knew in advance. It was very last minute type of request of the board to include in the budget. We can always try to bring it back, but it's always much more difficult to amend and appropriate the budget after the fact. So we were trying to get it into the budget. It didn't work out, and we're looking at options. So with that, I'll hand it over to Angel.
Thank you. Good evening, President Balzerini and other members of the committee. So I did want to address one thing from the earlier part of the meeting regarding the community meeting. So, and this is just for my reassurance as well. I booked that meeting. I went on your website, which was, I do like it. We started our own online reservation system. It is very helpful, and it does take a little bit of pressure off of staff. So I went on, I tried to book the meeting on the date that I needed, and it said you could book no more than, it gave me a date of, I couldn't book outside of this window. It was on my calendar. On that date, I went in there and I booked the room. I was told that I was moved out of the room because there was an open house at Bethany. I tried to book I tried to book the high school first and it wasn't available. I went down the list. Bethany was the only one that would allow me to go through. And then I got bumped because they didn't, I'm assuming didn't put their open house into the system. So I advertise in advance when I'm gonna do a meeting. And so that for me, it was a big stressor.
Understand. And I apologize, this has been a year of growing pains.
Oh,
I
I understand. Yeah, I
and we're
completely
still trying to
understand.
get our staff on board about reserving things. And it's unfortunate, but our school open house comes first.
Right, and absolutely. Part of the reason that I went to our general manager with this whole thing is, I fully support that the kids and they need the school facilities and they should have top priority. I completely understand that. But my job with the CSD is to provide activities for our community. And we have no facilities. So I have the parks, which limits me to times. If it's not raining and it's definitely not gonna, the wind's not gonna stop me because we're gonna always be windy. But summer months, spring months, that's really my time limit. And so to be able to provide some opportunities in the winter, that's really what I was looking for. And literally, I promise you, it was 10 minutes before we walked into the budget meeting that I went into his office and he said, well, why didn't you ask for it? And I said, I actually did, but our finance director cut it off because it's not, it's not something that's really necessary.
As all good finance directors
She
should
did the
do.
right thing. Yes. So it, so it did, it was addressed and I got up there and I fought hard for it. Director Clemens, I think he was in the audience. I think he was there giving a presentation on something else. And he got up and spoke to the fact that, that the board is willing to, that we will absolutely work together. I know that was his own doing. And so then the other frustration is, you brought up a great, example of our Shakespeare in the Park. That was a fabulous event. The wind was horrible, couldn't hear anything, the speakers fell down, and it would have been great to have an amphitheater. Sure. But you don't rent your facilities in the summer. So where does that leave me? So while I fully support, and I have been asking for the joint use agreement to be rectified for quite a while, and it's just a matter of trying to get both boards together. And we're working on that logistic right now. I need to know when, I have your facility agreement, but my events are not for profit, although I do charge sometimes because I'm paying the instructor. So how am I to provide a quality event for a community member in using one of your facilities if I'm going to be charged to use that space higher than our normal government rate? The rate, the board was very giving. They gave me $20,000 that I can use to pay for facility fees. And I will try and book this facilities when I can, but I am a fiscally responsible person, and I don't want to be paying more than what I feel is fair, and I don't expect our residents to pay $50 for a $10 class that we would normally charge. So, I definitely would ask that you reconsider, even if I am charging an amount for a community member to participate in a class, that you wouldn't charge me any differently than what you would charge if I'm doing a community meeting. We are still not a profit. We're not for profit. The CSD government's not going to make money on it. So I just have to pay the expenses for the actual class and cover those expenses, because my board has only given me a very small amount of money, and that the Shakespeare in the Park, that was done with no funds there was no budget for that, and I put that on with donations from the community and different organizations. But we still have money left over so that we can do another event next year. So that's kind of basically just all I had, and I'm here to answer any questions if you have any.
I have a question. So you're being charged under tier 3?
No, well, for the community meetings, we would, when we're doing a community meeting, we would be charged under 2A.
When would you be charged under 3? It sounded like that's what you were saying.
My understanding from an email that I received would be that we would be charged at a higher tier if we're charging community members to participate in. If I was to do a class and a community member was paying to participate in that class, then I would be charged at a higher tier.
You qualify as a government agency, I'm guessing. It doesn't say anything under tier 3 about government agencies.
I don't
understand why you'll be pushed down.
I think the question isn't something I think we could discuss is, technically the classes that she's talking about are not the governmental agency's work. It's not their day. She's going through and providing a service to the community for the so-and-so camps, stuff like that.
It would be like an exercise class. If I was to do an exercise class where the community would pay maybe $5 for the class.
So I would point out, this is where I think things can get sticky. So let's say the donkeys decide to go to her for a class. She then puts it on to us. They would be paying the 2A rate because they go through her, but are still technically for profit. And that's where I think this is happening, is the people that you're paying are technically for profit and don't qualify under the 2A.
Right.
That's where things get a little sticky. That's not to say that I think that can't be something we should discuss. In fact, I think it is something we should discuss, whether we can do it tonight or at another meeting, but.
Yeah, that's tricky.
No, I mean,
Just my perspective.
yeah, we can discuss it. Now is better, there's no better time than the present because everyone's here. So, again, this would be recommendation for the board. It's a decision that the full board makes. We're advisory.
Right,
We haven't
yeah, we
given
have the Parks Advisory.
Haven't given
Committee.
authority to make case-by-case decisions, and we just have to notify the board, but which, that may be the appropriate route to take is
think
just
so.
on a case-by-case and take a look at it and find out, get all the details where we can discuss it, who's getting paid, how much. But I stand by the policy. I stand by that it would be a Tier 3 organization if they're charging and someone's getting paid to put this on. That's what a Tier 3 is all about. And the reason that we had the tiers, just as a reminder for everyone, the reason we created the tiers was to separate ties. So if we have two competing organizations apply for the same time at the same place, I'm sorry, if it's a true nonprofit, they should get priority over someone getting paid to put on a class. That's how this whole thing was designed. So that's the only time that the tiers really come, and there are some associated fees which can absolutely be reviewed. But as far as a tiebreaker, I think we need to stick to the policy.
And where I would say this would draw some frustration for me is if I were in Ms. Lamb's shoes, these are the kinds of classes that would be put on civic buildings that they don't have and
Right.
wouldn't be charging any of the other fees at a higher tier, I'm guessing, either. So she's hamstrung by the fact that, their library wouldn't accommodate an exercise class. That
Right.
It wouldn't accommodate any of the other things that you're trying to put on. And I would say that I think it wouldn't be unreasonable to look at these things on a case-by-case basis. If you have time, I get that maybe doesn't help you, but that's what my push would be. We're offering something through the governmental agencies as part of their Parks and Recs department. And I'm going to guess that if we were to look at the spreadsheets, and I'd actually want to see the spreadsheets if you were going to do that, to say, what are we ending up with here? Because if someone's making money, then I agree with you. And I get that the donkeys, I do get that you're not actually making money, a little bit, tiny bit maybe. But I think it's important to draw a distinction there between if you were to offer a one-time class through them as opposed to your regular classes on a monthly basis. To me, there's a difference. To me, there's a difference between the Camp So-and-so, the yoga class that you were trying to put on. It's not a regular ongoing thing. It's not something that like the Zumba classes are in the end starting to try to make a profit. And I believe they should be charged for that. But if we're putting something on through our governmental agency as a one-off for the community, I think we should try to find a way to accommodate that under the lower tiers if we can. So.
Does it make a difference in our view if you are paying, for an example, if Angel was paying the instructor X amount of dollars to run the class, and then the participants paid Angel, but the amount of money paid to the instructor did not go up? Then in that case, wouldn't the government agency actually be putting it on and paying for the teacher, and then they're going to get the money and then expend that money
And
towards
typically, and that's
pupils
how
of
I
the district?
do our current classes that I do. The money that is paid out, there is a 5% administrative fee for my time, which doesn't cover anything. It's like $2. But the way that it works is I sit down with the instructor. We go over what the supply list is, how much, and we price that out. And then we go over what, cost-wise. And I have pushed back because I'm looking at an overall number, and I don't want to, if the supplies are kind of high, I'm not going to charge them $40 for a class that I feel should only maybe be 15. And I do research. I'll look at what other communities are charging for different classes. And so, and then the instructor and I agree on the amount, and that's what we put out there for. But the way that the reservations are all done through me, I take, we do all the charging, and then the instructor has to invoice me.
So you're paying the instructor, and then the participants are paying you?
Correct.
Right. Yeah, I think that's, in my view, that's a little bit different. It sounds to me like the government agency is putting on the event in that case and paying for the instructor to be there during that time. And then the money that they're earning, in theory, doesn't go up with the instructor. You're agreeing the instructor will take $100 to do this 1 hour class. And then if you manage to make $120, that $20 goes back to the CSD, which then, in theory, is used for the betterment of the community, right?
Probably for the
So
next
then,
class.
then
Yeah, it
wouldn't-
would be, yeah.
in that case, wouldn't it fall
we roll
under
it
Tier
over
2A?
to the next event, next class.
I kind of think it would, yeah. So.
I think that is I think that specific point, if the committee feels we can take that to the board, or take it to the full board with a recommendation from this committee. But I think that's just part of the issue.
Yeah.
Because the other part of the issue is going to be. can you
Actually
get-
getting
can
the
you get a
space.
Getting a place, yeah.
Yes.
And-
No, and I know that's the bigger challenge. And, you know, I haven't discussed this with my boss yet, but I do have plans to bring back during mid-year at some point here in the next few months. My plans are to bring back again the use of, to put in a portable, a temporary community center. Because it is a need, there is a need for it. Your facilities, as you showed on your report, are highly used, and it's a challenge to be able to book those facilities. And the facilities that I need are the multipurpose room for one. So that's a big one. And so, you know, but if using the amphitheater at Wickland, you know, maybe next year for the summer, doing another, you know, we are planning on doing another Shakespeare in the Park, and maybe possibly using the theater there.
The intent behind the policy with no use was, one, for preventive maintenance, and the other was to shut down the HVAC system so we can try and save some costs on that. So using an outside facility, just come to the committee and
Okay.
we can have the discussion of making the exception, because it's not going to, you know, we would have to talk about custodial and those kinds of things, but that definitely can happen. You haven't been at these meetings, but my theme has been that we've been the only show in town for way too long. And this is not the business that, as a school board, we want to be in. So the reason that the whole purpose of creating this committee was out of necessity, and it's just the time and effort that this group up here is spending trying to work through these issues, and the use requests are just through the roof. It's
Right.
amazing, and it's getting too hard for us to manage.
Right. And I do hope I can alleviate some of that for you.
And so do I. And I wish, I wish there was time. I wish I would have known, because I would have come and spoke to your board and told them, frankly, you need that.
I will absolutely contact you when it gets on the
Please do.
agenda.
Just for the committee's knowledge, I sent an email to the entire board because I watched the meeting online. I wasn't there, but I saw the discussion and fell out of my chair when they went against it. And I thought, oh, they have no idea. So, you know, the statement was, oh, we'll just give you some money. You can just go use the school's facilities. Well,
Good
you
luck.
can't, because even if you start looking at just the tier 1 organizations, they're gonna have everything monopolized. The high school principal came to us and spoke before this committee and said flat out, hey, next year, you're probably not gonna have anything, because a high school just goes into the evening every day. So that's the reality. We just don't have
Well,
enough
I'm going to
facilities.
try. I'm going to look and I'm going to try and book stuff, but I completely understand. And
And if your board would like to try and find some funds for us to help build that theater, boy, we would love to have that discussion.
but you have to promise it'll be open for me to use in the summer.
Well, but you
some
put up
money
some
I'm
money,
sure
we will
can-
work that out, absolutely.
I'm sure we can work that out. So,
All right, thank
Thank
you
you very
guys.
much.
Thank you.
And if anything comes up with the policy or any conflict, will you please let us know? Because that's why we come every month to try to fix it and take it to the board.
So I want to go back to my tier 2A question. The same situation arrives with Zumba, as Shane started to speak, where the tier 1 organization is paying the Zumba teacher to then run the class. So the same basic situation occurs, where in some cases they can make a profit. Are we agreeing then that you don't move to the for-profit tier if you're running a class that people have to pay for?
With the funds that the Zumba, so let's say you're paying the Zumba teacher $100. Okay? Okay, $25, and you collect $225. Where does the other $200 go?
It's divided between Bethany and BSF and WSF.
See, to me, that's a
So it does-
fundraising.
So it does not go back to the Zumba teacher?
Then that's a fundraiser to me.
Okay, well, same exact situation, but instead of paying the Zumba teacher $25 flat, we're paying the Zumba teacher $5 per student. We get $5, they get $5. Is that a different situation, or is that the same situation?
I mean, we're still collecting money. I think the money's still going to the school organization, which that's the intent.
But the Zumba's making a profit. That's my question. It's the same sort of situation. I just want to clarify that doesn't bump you to a different tier. If the idea is for the money that is raised to go back to the organization, is it more about intent or actual physical? Because somebody is making a profit in the situation I just outlined.
Yeah, but the
Not in the second situation. Well, both.
fundraiser is making a profit, and I think that's really what it comes down to, is that it's no different than saying, if you're going to do the spaghetti feed, well, there's a cost there. You're charging to go to the spaghetti feed, and there is a cost to reimburse for that, the goods and the products and stuff, and plus whatever you have to pay for our services, though I don't think there is anything, that you're still ending up with the money going into the foundation's pocket. No different than what was the fundraiser that you had for that they have at Lammersville, where they're paying some people to come in and provide some of the services as part of the auction. But the funds it's a fundraiser. It's money, a substantial amount of money going to an organization. To me, that's a fundraiser.
How is that different than the CSD's situation?
I don't think it's different. That's what I'm
It's
saying.
not different. I'm just trying to clarify because Angel was saying she was being bumped up to tier
The
3.
money's
so I'm
not
just trying
going to a
clarify.
school organization. That's the difference.
That is the difference. Okay.
Oh, yeah, it's not benefiting our students.
I don't think I would say it's not benefiting our students.
It's not benefiting our student foundations. How's that?
Okay, that's fair.
Which is what the tier 1 organization, or the tier 1 is all about. So that's the difference.
So the big difference there is tier 1 versus tier 2A. Do you think tier 2A should be bumpable to tier 3, for example, if it's a for-profit situation, but not tier 1 because it's more directly school-related?
I don't.
If
I think if any money's going to our foundations, it's a tier 1.
Then it should be tier 1, either way. Okay. I just wanted to get that clarified. Thank you.
Do you think differently?
No, I'd rather that stayed in tier 1 as well.
Just checking.
I do think-
these are just, I'm glad to have community people that, especially yourself, Corey, because I know how involved in different activities you are and being part of WSF, that I want to hear your opinions. So if, I look at things differently because I'm part of a governance team and, you might have a different perspective. So that's why we're here. So
Yeah,
I want to hear it.
I just wanted clarity just in case the situation arose again. So great.
I do believe that we should discuss if the situation that Ms. Lamb presented, where if she's collecting the funds and if additional funds don't create a windfall profit for the person who's putting on the class, that should not be a tier 3. I believe we should recommend that to the full board, that if she's receiving funds that she gets to roll over to create future classes for the community, those should fall under the governmental exception, and not, even if they are charging for it, and even if someone is getting paid on a per student basis, in the end, there's a piece that's staying with the community to create the next class and the next class, and I don't think we want to discourage that where she can, where the facilities are available.
Does anyone disagree?
I agree with Shane.
I agree.
For the next board meeting, can we have that added, please? I actually had it down too. I was going to take it.
Sorry.
Any further discussion on this?
Thank you for coming, Ms. Lamb and Mr. Pattison.
When is your next board meeting?
First Wednesday of the month.
Okay,
And we still have time to get on the agenda.
okay.
You had a question?
Yeah, I just have a question. Under Tier 1, for the Tier 1, it says official school parent club, PTA, and district-sponsored foundation meetings in which non-risk activity takes place.
Oh.
Higher-risk activities include athletic events, outside vendors. So when it pushes to an outside vendor, it will push that Tier 1 to a 2A, which incurs fees.
Okay, so it is covered. Thank you for pointing that out. Don't bump some back.
What page were you on?
If you go,
See?
I just flipped that back.
Sorry, does the handbook not specify that it's moving you to tier 2A? Or am I just missing
It's
that?
on page 15. So when it goes to the outside vendors, then it'll push you to a tier 2A, which incurs fees.
Where does it say that?
It's a high-risk activity if it's an outside vendor.
Outside vendors.
It says,
High-risk activity include athletics, events, outside vendors, cooking, serving food.
no, I'm just not seeing the part where it says it's 2A as opposed to 3.
Then if you go into 2A, it says high risk.
2 under 2A.
Official school parent club.
In which.
Oh, there it is. Thank you.
Thank you. That's why she's here.
So that would cover Zumba, I'm assuming.
Is that outside vendor? Yeah.
But what defines an outside vendor? If it's a
That's why I
parent at
highlighted it.
Zumba,
When
for
we
example,
When we get
is,
to the handbook, I highlighted it because I wanted to know what.
She wants to talk about that.
All right,
oh, okay, we'll do that later,
cool, we'll talk, okay. I like it. Anything else?
which is actually now.
Perfect. Item B, facility use handbook.
So I took all the amendments, although I inadvertently left a couple pages in the back to omit, but I added amendments 1 through 4 into the handbook. And then I highlighted and bolded some areas that have changes. So page 3, there's some language change there to submit an application on the website, because we didn't have that initially. It was complete the application.
Okay.
Now it's to complete it on the website, so I added that in there.
Where are we starting?
I'll be page 3.
Okay.
Actually,
Wanna start
page
earlier?
3, yeah, there was something I had also.
Okay,
Oh.
good.
Says it's going to be before the board annually, on or before the first board meeting in August. I'd like to change that to say the last board meeting in August.
Okay,
And that'll give
thank you.
some of the staff an opportunity to get back. And I know how, just looking at this year, how hectic it is leading up to that time. So if we can, my goal will still be to get it by the first meeting, but at least that gives us, by policy, a little grace period.
Like that.
And that's why we have to do this today, so we can have it for the first board meeting. Okay, anything else on page 3? Page 4,
I highlighted, changed it rather than saying September 1st through May 31st, because the school calendar changes.
Good
So
point.
change it to 30 days after school begins to 1 week prior to the last day of school.
Why is there a 30-day delay between when school starts and we can allow rental or reservation? I don't recall
because we
exactly why.
need to give the site principals an opportunity to reserve facilities for their students.
Open
use
house, back to
first.
school nights.
They don't do that
parent-teacher
before school starts?
They,
They try. We have most.
yeah, well, we don't know, also, I mean, basketball, schedules and those kinds of things. We need to give them an opportunity to do all that up front. And they know they're going to have to do sports for the full year also, right? Okay.
We're gonna miss Bethany especially.
Which also creates a conflict that I think we need to talk about.
Is that your,
Okay, well,
yeah, page 7?
Well, I had a question on here. So the idea was that we were going to give them an opportunity to put an application, give the sites an opportunity to do it. But if they do it, and maybe, actually, maybe you alleviate it by saying that 30 days after school begins to 1 week prior. So does that line up right? Lori, we talked about this before. Does that line up? So if they have 30 days as a teacher, and the teachers have 15 days, I mean, is it just going to give them late notice? They're not, they're going to have, they're only going to have a short window if they know that it's going to get denied.
Correct. How it currently reads is that outside organizations have in September 1st to September 10th to submit their applications for the full school calendar year. But it also states that they have to submit it 30 days prior to the date of first use. So if they submit it on September 1st, the date of first use can't be until October 1st.
Okay, so by changing this language, that takes care of the whole problem?
No, because if we do it by 30 days, then 30 days after the date of school starts is, if they do August 12th, it's September 12th, then it's October 12th.
Could we change the language to waive the 30-day requirement for the first month? For example, like you wouldn't need a 30-day notice. If you reserved 30 days after school starts, you wouldn't need a 30-day notice to do a reservation for the first 30 days after those 30 days. It's really complicated sounding, but you understand what I'm trying to say.
I don't.
You don't.
The only thing is we need the time to be, we need the time for processing. And we won't even hear back. I mean, the teachers come back last week of August, the principals come back last week of August, teachers come back
Not this year.
I'm sorry, July. And then staff comes back in August-ish. I know that it's a moving target as far as the start school date. They need an opportunity.
And that's really what this boils down
Because
to.
otherwise, what's going to happen is we're going to grant an organization and they're going to get bumped.
No, my concern is not about the 30-day delay. My concern is that, much like what the Dom case mentioned earlier, was that if you have a 30-day delay before you're allowed to register, and then you have a 30-day delay before you're allowed to actually utilize, there's effectively a 2-month delay before you can utilize any of the facilities. And how long's the school year? 8 months, 10 months? I don't know.
Well,
So,
that's the
I mean-
reason why our agenda is so long, because all of these entities want to be in before the date that has been set by this policy. I mean, there's quite a few that want the
But
exception.
let me clarify this then. If the Domkeys submit an application on September 1st, okay?
Actually, the earliest they could submit would be September 12th.
Right, but I'm going to use round numbers just so I don't confuse myself.
I'm
because
sorry, under
30
the new rules, it would have been September 12th.
So September 1st, they can submit an application. The problem that they've got is they can't use the facilities till October. But that's really only, they can also submit that application September 1st for November, December, January, February, March. So there's really only that first window. And there's, from my perspective, no way to fix that. We have to allow a 30-day grace period to allow staff to do stuff, or we're going to tell them, you tell us in April what you're doing next year. To me, that's just not feasible. There's got to be a period of time that we have to give our school administrators, their staff, the opportunity to say, this is what we want to do for the school year. Now, I also would say that if staff comes back and says, you know what, September, we're good. We've got it. These are the only days. We know work on the rest of the year. Then maybe we could find a way to release those days early. But that'd be the only way to do it, is to tell staff, we need your first 30 days in the first week of school. I don't know that we want to do that, do we? I mean,
I brought up the same basic idea, and the question then becomes, the 30-day delay between when you can utilize a facility after a reservation, the easiest solution would theoretically be to shrink that for a period of time. I'm not sure how long it takes to process applications. That's 6 hours a day, apparently. But
Sometimes.
but you could shrink that date. If for the month of September, anything that's done within September, you could maybe have like a 1 week or 2 week delay. I'm not sure if that would completely overwhelm her, though, for the first few weeks of September, or overwhelm staff.
well, once it's put into the computer,
That's just it, it's blocked out right now. That window's blocked out, and we just changed it to make sure Tier 1 could get in there. And now
That's the
it's
other thing. We're not just talking about the sites, we're also talking about Tier 1 organizations.
If you open it up for
No,
the
no.
other tiers,
I'm not trying to open it up earlier. I'm just saying, couldn't the window, once it's been opened, couldn't the reservation window be shrunk? I want to leave the 30-day, one second. I want to leave the 30-day delay because of the sites and the Tier 1 organizations to get in their fundraisers and their times. I'm saying is, once we open it up to the public, then why do we need an entire month before they're allowed to use their reservations? Why couldn't that period of time be shorter for the first month of the calendar, of the opening?
That's 30 days has been the policy. I mean, that's,
I know that I'm suggesting maybe we think about changing that.
that would be the question for staff is let's say September 1st, you're getting applications for September 15th, which is after the 30 days that the staff would have to block out their windows. How much time do you need to effectively get the reports that you get from all of the school sites to say, okay, we start school, what is it, August 12th, right? So that means they've got until September 12th. How long after September 12th do you need to get that data into the computers? And then how much time after that would you need to review the applications after that? And that's what I'm saying. Suddenly you're starting to talk about, this isn't just a 1 or 2 day process or even a
and
couple
then
of weeks.
beyond that, how much, I mean, if an organization is going to do something, and how much time are we going to have to tell them, no, you can't do it? If we only have 2 weeks to process it, it's not enough time.
Right, they might have started.
Then they're not going to have the time that they need, right, to do.
Would you even
their
have
org-
enough time with 2 weeks notice?
Let's hear, go ahead.
Yeah, it's a comment.
Let's hear from some, yeah.
Haven't said anything, and the meeting's gone on a couple hours, so, no. I was going to mention Tracy Unified. I know as we're trying to mirror what other organizations do or other school districts that are close. I know with Tracy Unified, everybody has to have their schedules in, and then July 1 is when they open theirs for the school year coming forward. And so before the teachers go out, they're expected to know, like, hey, you know what you're going to do, you just did it. So before you go out on vacation, before you check out, submit all your dates to, be whoever the administrator is for Tracy Unified. I can't remember her name. It's been a few years since I've used Tracy Unified facilities, but they're all scheduled. And that way she has plenty of time. And so by July 1, when they open it, they already know. Everything's already blocked out from the school district standpoint.
And a concern for me there is Tracy's built one new school in the last 15 or 20 years, and it was a high school. And if you were any part of what that opening of first year looked like as far as facilities use and stuff, you would not want to use Tracy's model. And that's my concern. They've got a history. They've got Lammersville. I'm virtually certain they've got the dates scheduled already for next year. That they've been the same school for 150 years. Wickland is the second oldest school in our district, and by virtue of some other things that have gone on, haven't even had an opportunity to create a consistent history for themselves or a schedule of these things. And all of our schools have to create that. Tracy has that. They have that existence. They have that institutional schedule that they are allowed to, that they can fall back on to create that. If you go across our entire school district, I think our most seasoned elementary school principal is at 5 years, 4 years, give or take. And the rest of the schools are younger than that. So they haven't even had an opportunity to try to find out. And I don't think it would be reasonable to tell those outgoing principals until they've had a chance to create that institutional memory for themselves. July 1st, you have to have us everything for next school year by July 1st. I mean, we had a brand new principal who didn't even know what classes he was going to be offering his kids at the high school or at Altamont Elementary School. It's going to be a little more difficult for us because we know over the next 10 years, we're probably going to build a couple more. And we have to allow each one of these sites the ability to develop that identity. So I think that's why we have to give them the time. That's
I
just
think
one
one,
person's
I
opinion.
think one day we will be there. I just don't think we're there yet. I think that, especially with all the transition of new principals and, I mean, we have a brand new principal at Cuesta, we couldn't, you know. And, I don't know, how are the foundations? When do you guys do the elections?
Elections are in April.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, elections are in April.
So you could, so foundations could have.
No, I'm good. I submitted mine already. I submitted mine today.
Okay.
I submitted mine today.
Today?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I
We've
mean,
had
you
it
know,
ready,
it's,
we're just waiting
that's
for
what I'm saying. All of these folks, it just takes them some time because we haven't had that opportunity, so. I don't disagree
I
that
mean,
it'd be great to have
perhaps,
it.
maybe we can work with the superintendent, try and make that a goal for this year and see if they can have their schedules to us by.
I'm not saying it has to be July 1. I was just using the example.
No,
but,
exactly, yeah, right.
You know,
The problem is that we
something
lose
they
them.
do.
They leave and then, you know, when they come back after the summer break, and that's when we tell them, right when you get back, first priority is get that done, get it in, because we have people, other organizations waiting. So,
And further on your agenda, I have questions that might come up about where Mountain House Youth Basketball, you know, we don't have in an application yet because it's not September 1.
get there. We'll get to it.
Okay.
We'll come back to that.
I'll come back.
Is there anything else on this topic?
Sudhir Mata, first of all, thank you very much for being the Park and Recreation Department of the City of Mountain House. Appreciate it. The facilities are absolutely a must, right? So we are a nonprofit organization. It's a Hindu church organization. We used to be in Tracy for 5 years, finally moved to Mountain House. My humble request, and I want to challenge you with this, I hear all the growing pains of being a young district. At the same time, we are growing pains of a young city. My humble request is I'd love to challenge you guys to think for next summer, how could we get a facility, one facility, anything. Give me one window, you say it has to be 2 a.m. to 4 a.m., and that's what we'll do it. The wind and the heat are a challenge. And we are a kids-focused organization all the way from 4 to 18. That's our primary focus. It's just challenging, asking them to stand in the sun, asking them to find different places. So I challenge you, number one, for summer, any facility. All of us organizations together will share one, right? And we will divvy our time slots. One facility. Number two is the beginning of the year discussion. I think, again, young district, young city. So if you couple that, I challenge you next year, let's start as early as we possibly can. And just, you know, we have the districts and the principals we have, challenge them to come up with the dates earlier and sooner and better, faster. Again, the activities are disrupted. August is the most brutal we have because of the weather and the wind. We just shut down, and we're a national nonprofit organization. It's just very hard. So really appreciate the facilities. Lori's awesome. Alvina is great. Thank you very much. But I'll come back and say my piece later. Thanks.
He's buttering the right bread right there. Okay.
Hello again. As you know, I've been doing this for 8 years. I've been with Bethany School since the day it opened. And what we've done in the past is just been very flexible. So we come in and we're like, okay, let's do our prayer. This is our normal schedule. You know, the principals, and I've been through several of them there, are all very accommodating. They're like, okay, no problem, but I have to tell you, I'm going to have some dates that are going to be taken from you. And I say, that's okay. I'll just move outside for the night. I'll go to the park, or I'll double my practice next time, or if you can give me a Friday night, or if you can, you know. And so in order to try and keep my company more professional, I try to be flexible with the schools so that I can keep my kids inside instead of having to be out in the heat. Because the drive time home is not necessarily the coolest time of the day. So having everybody outside at 6 o'clock at night is uncomfortable for the kids. There's not places for the parents to sit and watch. It's uncomfortable for it's more than anything an inconvenience.
And I
And
can
in order to
appreciate that.
take the convenience,
I appreciate that, and trust me, we've had those discussions. The problem is that we've grown, the organizations have quadrupled, and because of that, we had to centralize the process. What was starting to happen was, if you were friends with the principal, you were taken care of. That's not acceptable.
Oh, yeah. No.
So we had to centralize the process and say, we need a standardized process, and the tiers was to help try and figure out which group gets priority. We also have tiebreakers. It goes back to the nonprofit statuses, established date. I mean, we've done a lot of work to try and figure this stuff out. And I understand that organizations are impacted, and I feel for you. It's just that we don't have enough facilities.
I understand. And you guys, I believe you're doing a really good job. You're trying very hard, and I appreciate it.
We're, willing to listen to everybody and try and work through every issue that there is, but we're not going to make everybody happy.
And I'm totally with him. I will go to one different site every day if you need me there just to support that.
We've talked about
for
opening
the
up a
summer.
site also, and it creates other
Yes,
challenges.
we used to use Wickland when this was over at Wickland.
Right.
They would open up the multipurpose room for us, so I remember.
I would just wanted to point out too, one additional thing there, and I appreciate that your willingness to work with people, but some of those things can't be. Angel's scheduled classes that one night, that one time, and if we schedule that and then she gets bumped for an open house, she doesn't have the same opportunity you do. So I do appreciate that you do that, and I know we've talked to the principal there who explains all the time that you guys have been great when working with her when scheduling mistakes have happened. But like I say, that's not, the problem is we start creating exceptions to rules, and now we don't have rules anymore. We're back to where we were before, and we have to have something consistent for those organizations that aren't on a
Right,
weekly
and
or
as it
monthly
builds,
schedule.
they have to be- I
Exactly,
understand.
so.
All right, we've deviated from the discussion.
Yes.
Did you have something to add?
I have one more, I'm sorry. So one other idea, then what about having the August and September reservations be tentative? Could you allow reservations earlier for August and September to eliminate this delay and allow those to be tentative? And then if the teacher or staff puts in theirs, then, and it overrides one of the other dates, then they just get an email saying this particular reservation has been canceled. That would allow, it might be a ton of work though, so.
I think the only problem that we've run into is once an organization puts it in, even though it hasn't gone through the whole process of being approved, once they've put in that day, that time, then no one else can take that day and time.
Even the site staff, I mean,
The way that the process works is an organization logs in online, and then it goes through a workflow process of being approved by, different individuals. I know Jim is in on the loop, I'm in on the loop. But, and the site principals are also in the loop, so I guess they would see it and have to take a look at the date. But if their school secretary or office manager goes in to put it in after an organization did it 2 minutes prior, the site secretary will not be able to enter it.
could you not give the site secretary an override ability?
No, how they currently do it now is they'll look at the reservation, and if something's conflicting, they'll email me and say that date's not available. I go in and then I modify it, and then I notify the organization that that date is unavailable.
And I think what
Double
Mr.
the work
Stark's trying to
then.
ask is why couldn't we set something like that up for the first month or 2 months of school where
I'm just trying to figure out a way so that there's not a 60-day delay before people can use the facilities.
at the beginning of the year, at the beginning of the
Yeah,
year.
sorry, at the beginning of the
We
year.
just have to make sure those office managers are aware, pay attention to these dates and times before or the site principal before you approve them. Because that may have been what happened with the one.
Even though our process was manual last year, it had a pretty good turnaround time, I think, for processing manually. This year, I think, will be a lot easier. The thing that we're going to have to wait on is once it's submitted, it goes through review to make sure that I have all the proper paperwork. Then it gets submitted to the school site, pending if it has to go to DMOT, which is Director of Maintenance and Transportation, or Bernie for food services for approval if it's something that they're requesting kitchen-wise. So where I always get hung up is these school site administrators going through from the process here to the final process back to Alvena for final approval.
What if we, instead of going the route that you were taking where you put it in the book as booked. We accept those applications, we hold them, and then the staff does their approvals at the district or the school site levels, and then you go to add in after, you will get an error that you can't add them in, right? So let's say they wanted to reserve a place September 15th, and you give them tentative approval but not put it on the calendar. You're holding a tentative approval file for yourself. Then the teachers and staff all put theirs in through the school site secretaries. Then you go to add that tentative file. Oh, conflict, I email you, sorry, 15th date was tentative, it's been booked. You are now allowed to book any other date you choose. If you'd like a replacement, please feel free to log in.
It's probably not going to save you September, but something like that would probably get you access to October. I think September, because we're allowing the school sites to put stuff in at that point, I probably wouldn't allow reservations in September if given that situation, but I would allow reservations for October to be tentative. And then if the school site requests these dates, they would override the other organizations effectively, and they would just get an email saying, I'm sorry, your October date has been, do whatever.
And that's to clarify for folks, we're offering to use school district employees to aid non-district business. So that's part of the discussion we're having here, just so everyone understands that. Part of that 2.6 hours that she's spending on other stuff. But I think, could you imagine that would be substantial?
I remember she's spending every day.
Well, I currently have 15 on the agenda for early approval, and then I ran a report out of civics permits because I manually fed all the applications that were a manual process into there for last year. And I ran a report, and I probably have about 30 other organizations who have not reached out to me to start early application process.
To be fair, some of these early approvals are what Corey was talking about, October 30th.
Some of them start in September.
Some of them start in September, and you're right, and that's what I'm talking about, but it's.
So what I could do is, I know the school site, and I was thinking about this today, to reach out to be proactive, send them a list of all the dates, because I can pull reports saying the things that they used for last year based on, because I know who the foundations are, and then also the site office administrators, and say, I've gone through the calendar, you have not booked these dates. Do you need the same type of items this year? If so, let's get in there and book a date and hold that date tentatively so I can start maybe processing these applications earlier than the 30 days, just for this year.
That kind of goes along with my question, because WSF, we have all of our dates ready. So could I go in tonight and just knock them all out?
Yes.
Okay, we'll do.
So
Well, hold on a second. What if the site needs the facility?
Right.
They still have to
You
ultimately
might not have their
approve.
dates yet.
It still will go to the site principal.
That's, and that was why we didn't want anyone putting anything in until the site had the opportunity, because even WSF, yeah, you're a tier 1, but school site can
Right.
still take.
So music, back to school night, all those things.
So I don't see how we can get around that.
So I guess I would have to hold the file like I did last year with everything tentative. That means they'll
Well, that
have
was
to.
why I thought we created the window so everyone could do it in one shot, get it all done, get it queued up in order by tier and,
And in the end, I mean,
Problem
if
is
we have to
this-
keep it this way, we have to keep it this way.
The applications are coming in before that window. They want to use the facilities in August, and our window is September 1st through the 15th for indoor facilities.
and
So that's the date we would have to
nothing,
change.
nothing has changed, you know.
Technically, they're submitting their applications before the window. So they're finding an exception to the rule, coming to the committee for approval.
And that's fine, they can still do that, but I mean, I can tell you right now that we've had this policy for several years that we don't use, and we're not gonna go in and put all that money and work into cleaning the floors, sealing them, and doing all this work, and then have an organization use it prior to the school year starting. No way, we're not gonna do that.
True.
I mean, we need our facilities ready for our kids, that's what we do. So, I mean, they can ask, but the answer has to be, our kids come first.
I would submit that maybe with the exception of multipurpose rooms, we could find some way to allow some measure of indoor facilities during the summer on sites that are open during the summer. You know,
Well, and we did that this year.
Right.
We
and
made
so-
exceptions for classrooms.
And that's, I
Absolutely.
want to get into that part of the handbook when we get there, is there really isn't an indication that you can request an exception. It just says no. And for this gentleman back here, he's hearing no and not planning anything. But if there's a classroom on the Wickland campus or the high school campus that he could utilize.
There absolutely is an exception in here, and it says that you can come to the facility use committee with any.
Well, I will say,
in the handbook.
we actually did allow that this year. We allowed a classroom at Wickland this summer. So clearly there's a situation where we could do that.
The paragraph specifically on page 7, indoor facilities will not be available during June 1 to August 31st. That's all it says.
It's in a different position.
I know, but that's what I'm saying. It needs to be in this section too.
Okay.
If you read just this section, it says you can't. If there's an exception section, then we need to say except as provided under section whatever it is, paragraph, blah, blah, blah. So that they know, wait, there's a way I can get an exception, because if I'm this gentleman and that's on page 72, I'm not reading to page 72. I can't do it. June 1st, August 31st, this says no. Why do I need to read on? That's all I'm saying. Not a complaint, not mad.
No, I'm
Getting a little tired. I get grouchy when I'm tired.
and
I'm
I think
sorry,
that it's in
folks.
here. So, okay, so you guys,
When I breathe oxygen.
before this goes to the board, can you guys review it and just make sure that it's going to work out right?
Yes.
I don't know if changing that alleviates whatever issues there were, but 30 days after school begins to 1 week prior to the last day of school. Rental from, okay.
I just don't see, as much as I'd like to, I don't see a way to open it up that doesn't curtail a substantial amount of staff time or,
I question whether 30 days is enough.
There's no way within the program to set up the tier so that a particular user could override. I know that one of the problems appears to be the amount of extra effort it would take for her to manually process a bunch of stuff. It seems like, I haven't seen the program, but maybe there's a certain level of permissions you can give to the school sites administrators to schedule their events, even though someone else has a spot in there, and then you would just get an email, and it's just a matter of you clicking yes at that point as opposed to pulling a bunch of paper. That would reduce time.
and if it's not a feature, I'm assuming that these are folks you can contact to say, hey, why isn't this a feature?
I mean, it's a civic use program. It feels like something that might be in there somewhere. It may not be, but it feels like something that might be in there somewhere.
But what's the benefit of signing up and then getting an email later that says, hey, we're bumping you, versus having to wait to sign up?
Since you're never going to get October otherwise, or September otherwise. If we don't allow this, they're literally never going to have an item that's going to start before
Well, and I don't think-
October. If the goal of a organization like Kumgang Taekwondo was talking about how their year is effectively the school year, it's very similar. They get all their classes during the school year time. We're cutting off 2 months with the way we have it now. Under the other solution, those 2 months are tentative, but there's a pretty good chance she's going to get half of those,
Some.
or at least a few. While right now she's going to get 0.
So for the month of October, we need to push it out farther and let them be able to sign up earlier is.
And it would also
Under a
alleviate lot of
tentative
the
sort of
stuff
thing, I
that's in
would
our book.
put a note saying that anything that's done before the school site administrators is tentative. You can be canceled up until this date. In which case, if we're canceling you, we'll let you know. We'll refund your whatever. It
Can you
just
see if the
feels like
system
there
can
should be
do that
something.
and work that out before it goes to the board? Okay.
Page 18 is the section about the exceptions and approaching the facility use committee.
Okay.
So I guess we'll get there as we go through
Okay.
this.
Thank you for that discussion. Everything, anyone else have anything in any of this?
I had one more.
Well, only where there's issues.
Only
I
where
had a-
there's yellow, right?
I had a question on page 5. In a third paragraph, it says, last sentence, an LUSD employee will be present at all times in the high school stadium.
I think that was probably meant to mean on the high school campus, not in the high school stadium, right?
No, it was for the high school stadium. That was a discussion.
They were supposed to be
that we had.
literally in the stadium the whole time?
Someone rents a stadium, a custodian needs to be there.
In the stadium,
Present.
Right. Not, and
Present
I think that what we need.
in the facility of the stadium.
Yes.
Okay.
I think what we need to articulate is that the organization has to pay for it. I don't see that anywhere here or in the pay schedule. This was in addition to any other custodian on duty. They need to, if they use a stadium, they have to pay for a custodian.
Yes.
And I don't think
Yes.
it's articulated anywhere in the
I
handbook.
will double check that. It doesn't come to my mind too right away that I remember it being in here. either.
Oh, it's not in there. No, so we need to, either on the pay schedule or right here.
Probably put it in
or
both
both.
places.
Okay.
Probably put it in both.
Yeah, how about, can you also add a line here on page 5 that says, and paid for by the organization? And then we can add it to the pay schedule also.
So I made my note on page 7.
Yeah, I have a lot on page 7.
Page 7, yeah, because we go right back to those dates again.
Yeah.
Okay.
1st and August 31st. And I just think if you, refer to except under the exception as articulated under wherever it was.
Yeah, that's good.
The exceptions,
It says August 31st, but I think that should be September 31st or September 30th. I don't think you can't rent the facility in September. There's not a way.
why don't we just make that 30 days after school starts as well? We just talked about trying to
Would
do
agree
a
with
way
that.
so that you could do that, actually, but.
It makes more sense, yeah.
The exceptions to these rules can be accommodated by coming to this committee, right? Should there be a note here somewhere that says that there's a way to do exceptions? Otherwise, you have to go another 15 pages to realize that, as it turns out, you could actually just come ask.
So should we have that as?
Like
kind
just
of
an asterisk or something?
In the very beginning?
It might be something rather than at the end, after general procedures, maybe at the beginning of procedures explaining that, there is a facilities use committee, that exceptions, that the handbook sets out a general policy, kind of what it says, just
In the beginning.
at the beginning
Maybe
instead of
under-
at the end.
Even under the purpose and scope, that's where we can describe the facility use committee and what its purpose is and. Okay. Moving along, anyone past page 7?
I've got a question on page 9, just for
Page 9.
clarification. You've struck the statement at least 14 days for cancellations. So if I want to cancel 30 days in advance, I can't?
We're still having trouble with that. We were having issues with people wanting to come in on day 13, and we were.
That's
thinking
too bad.
Sunday.
That's what at least means.
Exactly. That's what I thought, but it's the way people were interpreting it.
Well, they can interpret however they want to. At least 14 days before means on the 14th day before your event, if you haven't canceled it, you don't get to anymore. But the way this reads now is, if I want to cancel it 30 days in advance or 3 months in advance and open it up for someone else to use, I can't. Because I have to wait until 14 days before.
Good point.
Yeah, it should have at least, right?
It should.
Yeah, it
I
needs
get that some people may not understand what at least
Needs to
means,
be.
but I would say this.
I know
We
the-
understand what it means, and if you don't do it under our rules, you forfeit your fee. I get that you don't agree. Guess what? If you do it on the 13th day, I think your response to them should be, our next facilities committee meeting will be on such and such a date, and I encourage you to attend. At which point I would be happy to say, what part of at least 14 do you not understand?
Well, I mean, with the strike through too, if you did it on the 15th day, right, you would be subject to
That's right.
losing
You
your
could- you
fees.
couldn't do it
You
because
would literally
you're
have to do it on the 14th day under the current text.
So
On the
just-
same page.
It's actually
I'm
on
going
the,
to keep it.
there's two at least. There's also one on the top of page.
Yes, I see that too.
Sure. On the same page at the very top, it says, do not use school site address as business address on personal flyers. When it comes to the school organizations, should there be an exception there? Because the school organization, like Wickland School Foundation's address, is the school site's address? Do we need to write out an exception? Or do we just,
I think
whatever?
We should say tier 2A.
No, I think that's understood.
I think it's
That's the
understood.
site, I mean, that's
That is your business
address,
address.
yeah. No, that's-
It's just we actually had some folks.
No, I remember why we did it. I was just asking if there
I don't-
should be an
I don't
exception.
I think it's understood. Courtney?
Same thing for at least on the next page.
Yeah.
Yep. And then the next notification, let's see. Coordinator for out.
There's some English issues here, I think.
Yes, there are.
Outside event, when a rain occurs.
Someone tell me what the intent of this paragraph is.
Which one are we on?
On page 10, the second paragraph.
Yeah, the one you got highlighted in yellow.
Notifications.
Right, we had rain appear on let's say Wednesday, and the facility obviously did not provide 24 hours in advance. And so that would mean that they didn't provide 24 hours in advance.
That we didn't provide to them.
So they didn't provide to us because it rained the day they were supposed to show up. And then it
Why don't you just make it say, if a rainout occurs, refunds apply. Refunds apply when no cost of labor.
In the event
utilities
the outset event is canceled due to what we call force majeure, act of God, that's the actual technical contractual term, then refunds apply if no cost of labor or utilities is incurred by the district. Because that would apply to a rainout, an earthquake, a mudslide, a natural disaster, a sinkhole because of gophers, stuff like that.
What are you saying? You got that, Lori? All right.
If you need to, I can get you some language.
Okay. Page 12, excellent, no pets.
Yeah, because we just had put no dogs.
No, you're right, no pets.
I'm bringing my hamster.
So
Dang
you're gonna
it.
strike the no dogs, I guess, or you're
We
gonna
just
remove?
did
Okay.
that on mine.
This one's up, is on page 15.
Yes, yes, we need to talk about that.
Under Tier 2A, this is not the highlighted part, but under Tier 2A, should we actually say nonprofit, or do we already just assume it's a nonprofit? It just feels like we should write the word nonprofit there.
I would agree. It's in the book, not the book, the
table.
schedule.
It's just clear, I think, if you write the word
And
nonprofit.
highlighted if you see above that outside vendors, because sometimes we have school foundations or boosters club that has the arts and craft booths. So we took that as outside vendors, but, you know,
We need to define it.
Yeah, technically, Zumba could apply, as discussed earlier, theoretically.
yes.
And this is,
But would the arts and crafts folks who do our Art on Wheels project, who are coming in to do a similar project with the foundation, apply as
part
an
of
outside
WSF.
vendor?
are they paid?
No, but that doesn't say, outside vendors doesn't qualify payment.
Well,
They're
we're
not part of
encouraging
it.
now, though, that the donations from the foundations or the boosters be given to the district, and the district do with all the proper channels of getting a
To reimburse.
attorney
I like that.
reimbursement. Yes, that's kind of the approach that we've now been making.
I like that.
Is having the foundations give the money to the district, and then the district makes sure they get the insurance requirements, the, renting if
I'm just
necessary.
saying, if you're going to do outside vendors, you should say paid outside vendors.
We need to define that somehow. It needs to,
Yeah,
it needs
that's
to
no good
say
either.
that, yeah.
So an arts and crafts store, all these people selling their arts materials or their crafts, they're getting paid money.
Sorry, how is an arts and craft boost a high-risk activity?
We're talking about if it's an outside vendor.
It's an outside vendor.
High-risk activities include athletic events, outside vendors, which implies that outside vendors is a high-risk activity.
Exactly. So that's why I wanted to define that.
Well, maybe maybe we ought to actually create its own, its own section, not just,
And here you thought this would be a fast meeting, right? Oh, no.
no, I knew it was gonna be brutal.
First, I'm gonna qualify if, and again, the Art on Wheels project is a great example. If the parents who are volunteering to put that on also volunteer for the foundations to bring arts and crafts, and all they're doing is reimbursing for the arts and crafts, that's not an outside
not an
vendor.
outside vendor.
It would be an outside paid vendor, for-profit vendor, something of that effect that to me would qualify.
So we haven't charged any facility use fees for that reason.
But maybe we should call it paid outside.
But then,
That's no good either, I think. Why don't we just strike outside vendors from high-risk activities?
Right, we need to create a separate section
Okay.
for it, but
Yeah.
we need to still articulate that if you're using that, if you're using an outside vendor, that it kicks you up to, actually,
I don't understand why it has to do that.
and I'm going to agree with Corey on this. I mean, the Zumba class is a great example. She's getting $5 per student. The foundation is getting $5 per student. Why do we want to charge them $40 an hour to use the facilities?
Or even a bounce house at Carnival, for example. And in theory, according to this particular clause, then a bounce house at Carnival bumps you to Tier 2A.
and I agree with that.
I actually, that's a high-risk activity, I'm sorry. It's a liability to the
My
school
bad, I meant
district.
sand candy.
The,
Sand candy is a great example, though. I'm just
so
gonna,
I guess the discussion is outside vendors. If the vendor's getting paid, does that change what tier you should be in?
my position is going to be much like it was with Miss Lamb. If it's a fundraiser to the group, to the associations, it shouldn't be bumped up a tier. Yes, there may be a profit motive in there partially for somebody, because again, they're getting $5 per student for the Zumba, but if our foundation is getting $5 a student too, we're taking away their end of that money by charging the fees, because the teacher's still going to get their $5 per student. It's now the $5 per student that's becoming $2 or $1 per student, because they're getting charged $40 an hour instead of $5 an hour, or whatever the costs are. If it's a fundraiser, it's a fundraiser, and I don't think, if it's not blowing stuff up or setting it on fire or throwing people in the air, we shouldn't be charging
You know
extra
what?
for that.
We can take the outside vendors out of that line because it's already articulated in 2A. It says activities for LUSD youth that are charged fees. That covers it, right?
No, those are different things. Outside vendors and activities that charge fees, I don't think those are
And
the
let's
same.
make a 5 and just cover it. And what do we call it? Outside or vendors that receive payment, or?
Well, but I'm not agreeing that they should bump up. I don't think it should move them to a 2A. That's
I think it should just strike. I don't understand why the thing matters as far as outside vendors goes for tier
Although
ones.
The types of people that are also coming onto the facilities and possibly working with their children, and what type of high-risk activity could occur.
So if they
from
go
them
to
being on
2A,
campus.
that's what,
I'm not sure where you're going with that.
There's a higher insurance requirement as you move up too on with these high-risk activities.
But again,
Obviously, it depends on the type of activity.
and
The type of vendor you have coming in. Are they going to have someone at the event supervising? Almost falls into the volunteer fingerprinting.
and that's
as well.
what I think what you're getting at is that if it would fall into the volunteer fingerprint stuff, do we need to have those people fingerprinted? Are they volunteers is kind of what she's getting at. You know what I mean? The high risk is not the activity, but it's the people jogging, on the track during football practice, Corey, that might get our children. It's the people who are in the classroom who could hurt our children. That's what they're talking about.
I think we're going to have to move on, and this will have to go to the full board for discussion.
I just want to add one thing. Under high-risk activities, should we not change it to high-risk activities include but are not limited to?
Yes, always.
Yes, you're absolutely right. Include, but not limited to.
You've been reading a lot of contracts, Corey?
Okay. Moving along.
No problems with 17 for me.
Page 19, can we,
Page 17.
I didn't see anything on 17 that
I
bothered me.
highlighted on 17, charges will be made, but I think inadvertently we left some of these equipment, because I thought we had decided we would not charge for the audio-visual equipment. If they damaged it, then of course that we would obtain that maybe out of a deposit, but
My recollection was foundations were able to use audiovisual equipment, but no one else.
Right,
so I think that just needs to be notated here.
Right.
right, it
But I-
wasn't going to be available to.
That's what I thought.
Well,
It just,
to
I
you
didn't
guys,
see a
Yeah,
change and we
to
didn't make an
Right.
amendment. Okay. Tier 1 only.
Yeah.
And then the question came up, and I know this came up earlier today, the administration fee should only be charged once at time of application, but the civic permits program, it does it by school site. So if you have a particular organization that wants to do 5 elementary sites, you have to go in, and Lori has to go and remove that extra $40 that's being charged on every single application after the first one, when it comes in at the same time.
then that's what we need to do.
Yeah, so that just, I know.
Sorry.
It doesn't
We're gonna
allow you
have
to select the schools, all the schools on the
If
block.
that's the case, then we're going to have to incur some labor on that one, but. no,
Well,
we're not.
and
That's-
again, this is something you should be talking to them about, like, that's ridiculous. It's not an application just because it's for a different site.
So I just wanted to make everyone aware that we are not charging it for every single new application that's coming in. We are only charging it.
And then
for
how about the
first
$40 fee to change?
We have, if they have to go in there and add additional dates, so it's something new, we have to make arrangements to find custodial coverage. So if
Okay,
there's that
that's
need,
fair.
if we need additional custodial coverage or food
then
service
if
coverage, then we will charge the
Change
additional.
reservations that are not at the fault of the district, I mean, the vendor. If it's our fault,
We will
if
not
we have
charge.
to bump someone, there shouldn't be a $40 charge, and we should specify
That's
that in here.
correct.
Also, if you're saying that we only charge the $40 if we have to make a change for a custodian or something like that, we probably should include that, because right now it just says any change to reservation would incur a $40 fee.
Sure.
So we should probably add something saying we won't actually charge you, yeah.
If staff.
Staff time,
member,
yeah.
staff-
Yeah.
Any change that necessitates staff member,
The staff time is required.
because if they make their own change on the computers, who cares, right?
Yeah,
If
we
they
don't wanna charge
cancel
them.
one and add a new one,
Yeah.
we're not gonna charge them $40 for that, right?
$40 because they want to move from 8 to 7 seems kind of mean. But you could, but you could.
But again, I mean, Corey's right. We need to look at what the verbiage in the policy says, so that needs to be,
Another
that needs to be
thing, and I
right.
don't know that's-
Once they submit application, they cannot go in and modify that application. I have to go in and do it.
Okay, that, I see why the cost, okay. All right,
But it's okay.
I think that if you add, if staff time is required, I think that's sufficient.
Now, bottom of page 17 allows selected administrators and/or certificate employees to be approved in advance by the facility use committee that can open and close the site. So that could potentially eliminate some fees incurred there, but I don't know if the administrators or the teachers would be cleaning. We haven't had anybody approach us to be added to this list, but I just thought I would point that out too, that is
I
language.
think we need to make that a
have.
priority for this school year, to focus on that and get, you know, if we're going to offer, we need to make sure that it's available, so.
And then A through J obviously are all the things that they have to make sure they go through that.
Okay, anything on 19 as far as fees? We just want to add that one for the stadium with press box that they will be, that the custodian must be present and they will be charged. And
And with potential salary negotiations, that hourly rate for custodial and food service employee may be affected by that. So we will recalculate.
you know, you got to modify this, the language on here. It says custodial, oh, well, no. Custodial fees about the 2-hour minimum for lock and unlock. That's applicable to the facilities, but not the stadium. Right? Because the stadium,
Stadium is all day.
On page 7, under field, field use, if you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 down, there's a clause in there that says, buildings shall be open, attended, and closed by an authorized employee of LUSD. So what that means is somebody can't simply come in and do an unlock and a lock. They have to stay for the entire time of the event, and they should be billed.
Didn't think that was the plan.
I didn't think so either, but
you know,
it's
we've
in there.
gone back and forth on this a few times about the weekends, about does someone need to be on site or not, right?
Yeah, in my experience, they haven't been on site.
Right.
I think if you have, we have this priority list and we have employees that have gone through the process of being able to watch over the event, that could be the opportunity there for the
Is that happening,
organization.
or are the organizations just doing it themselves with no?
I mean, the most recent example I can come up with would be the Sweetheart Dance, where the custodian came, opened up the door, and then came back, a few hours later and closed the door. And she may have come by and we set up the fire alarm.
Why would we need a custodian to stay there that whole time?
We had a fire alarm go off that evening.
Right, and I remember
That
that.
was, yeah, it's true.
And we've gone back and forth on this issue several times about should we have staff there or not.
So I would say, from my perspective, if our staff member is paid 2 hours to be there and not for other duties, then they should stay on campus. They're paid 2 hours to be there. They don't get to come and unlock, go away. And they come and unlock. But if the event's more than 2 hours, then we have a problem.
Right.
Right? Because if the event's 4 hours, it's 1 hour to come and unlock, 1 hour to come back and lock. And if we're requiring that staff member to be there for the whole 4 hours of the dance, for example, I know it wasn't 4 hours, but just as an example, then now they're being paid for 4 hours and we're only getting reimbursed for 2. I would say that the attended thing has to be some of the more high-risk stuff. The stadium was my prime example. If they're in the stadium, we want someone there because of the potential heightened damage that could occur.
Should also mention,
But I thought that's all that applied to.
But we've gone back and forth on this because it's the same thing. I mean, so the guy comes in, opens up for 2 hours, and then he goes home to Stockton, and then the fire alarm goes off, which it did. What happens then?
Now the fire department shows up, they turn it off.
He can speak from experience.
I get a phone call at home.
Right.
From personal experience.
I mean, I think it's got to go to the full board also. This is a pretty good discussion because it's going to incur costs and.
It'll incur costs to us and potentially costs to the people who are using the facilities.
Can we mandate that someone be in attendance in the event of a high-risk activity, though? It seems like
I
if
agree.
we're going to have someone attended, it seems like with a high-risk activity, we would want someone on site, while with the low-risk activities, we would be more likely to say, just unlock the door and then, come back later.
But a dance is a high-risk activity.
Is it as an athletic
It
event?
used to be, it's not now, we removed it.
No, we removed it. It's a joke.
Oh, okay.
It
Yeah.
was on there.
Yeah, I think you're right, though. It's got to be something the full board weighs in
Got
on.
that? Okay.
Oh, I did
All of you want to
mention-
do this regularly? Come on, you can serve on this committee and come read this thing 7 times now.
Go ahead.
Well, I know with the large gym and small gym over at the high school, we had a lot of issues, even with custodians available, because they couldn't watch over all the areas. We had people trying to climb the fence. They were trying to take liquids into, not water, they were trying to take liquids into, and food into the
Not water.
gyms. Not water. We allowed water. It was not water.
That doesn't happen in high school. What are you talking about?
But, and then they were told on a couple of occasions, you're not to have food in the gym. And a short while later, the custodian spotted again students and adults bringing food into the gym again.
Is staff making a recommendation?
Staff's making a recommendation that we analyze the event to make sure we have proper coverage for it and that we have available staff, and then make sure we bill that organization for the time spent. We have to analyze the things that are coming through the high school because some of these events are really large and we need to make sure we have the staff available.
Okay, so what's the definition of really large and what's the definition of staff available?
200 to 400 people, and we need to have more than one custodian, one male, one female, to help clean the facilities and the restrooms, and possibly one to maintain the exterior for security purpose, so that they can rotate their breaks and still be able to monitor effectively. So I'm thinking one custodian, maybe 2 per 200 to 300 people.
What do you think, Jim?
Well, we did an analysis of that, and it's possible to, one custodian can handle 100 people, but it also is related to the type of event that's going on and the facility that's going on. You could handle 200 people if we were having a sit-down dinner, say, at the multi-use room where it was being catered. But when you have 500 people utilizing both gyms, that gets a little out of hand because now we're getting into traffic control. We've had some events that we have had some trouble with already because we didn't have the proper staffing, as they were talking about. I think once we hit an attendance level of 100, we need to view each individual event and see what's going to be taking place.
I think that's the perfect verbiage.
I agree.
All
100%.
events over 100 people will be reviewed on a case-by-case.
Yeah, and subject to potential increased staffing requirements, safety requirements, et cetera. I agree. Because like you say, 500 people, even 500 people in one gym, one person can't possibly watch all of that. So, whether they're in both gyms or not, that's substantial, so.
A question I have is what happens if you have a tier 1 organization that has more than, is it the same rule applies?
Yes, it would have to. I mean, we're looking at control of the facility.
No, the one I'm thinking that might qualify would be like the spaghetti fee. In and out, don't you get more than 100 people for that?
We do. I would say we do.
But again, if you're looking at that, they're all coming in, they're sitting down. It's something that I don't know you would necessarily incur a separate cost for.
Okay.
Because of it, it's not I don't think it's a safety concern, and it's not all 100 people at one time. And like, that'd be something where we could all sit down and go, yeah, that makes sense. I don't think it's going to be a problem, as opposed to 300 people in and out in an hour and a half.
It was the competitions that we had some trouble with.
And that's, I'm going to.
And you're right. I mean, something like that, we know those are crazy. I mean, okay.
But if we just have them.
Case by case.
Case by case like that, I agree. That's good language.
Are there anything else in the manual that needs to be reviewed? So the amendments have all been added,
I have.
amendments have all been included, and that'll get updated.
Now,
Okay.
we are suggesting that we separate the authorization forms for flyers and banners. So in your packet, there's 2 samples. It's basically the same information, but just separating them. And Lori's was the one who came up with the recommendation.
The one thing I wanted to mention is,
It's actually, it's
the
right
back.
after the packets. It's after page 28 in the packet.
In May, Corey had said that the banner/flyer distribution form was somewhat confusing and it was not clear to the board policy and the size of the banner. So I did 2 different requests, because some will just want a banner and some will just want a flyer, and now they have the option to choose. And on the banner, it reflects everything that's in the board policy and administrative regulation to Lambersville Unified School District. It's the exact same verbiage, so there isn't any questions.
only problem is that the AR that you have attached is not the right one.
Oh.
That was for your eyes only.
We had one that was updated by the board. This one's not
That's right, because she said it's supposed to be 4 by 6 finished.
finished. Right.
Yes.
It says it on the form, just not in the, so just,
I think
Okay,
she
I'll
pulled
update
this
that.
before CSBA had it updated.
I don't know that they've even
So we'll-
updated
we'll-
it yet, but we need to get that.
I'll fix it.
Yeah, the application has the correct language.
The application's correct, it's just the board policy, the administrative regulation is not, so that just needs to be updated.
I just have a curiosity. Who's the designee?
What's that?
On all the forms, it says it must be approved by the superintendent or designee. I'd like to know who the designee is.
For facility, it's Alvina Kaiser. If it's related to a facility use, if it's not an educational in nature, it will be Dr. Gill.
Did you say Dr. Gill? Sorry.
Correct.
Because our superintendent is allowed to take a day off.
And delegate responsibility.
Yes.
Okay, anything further? Excellent work by staff. Thank you very much for making all the updates. Thank you to the committee for taking the time to review it.
There was one more thing, Matt.
Yes.
I just put an example in there of use of facilities and mobile food vendor procedures for any organizations who are having mobile food vendors. I took that example from Elk Grove and I put a sample in your packet just so you can review it to see if it's something maybe you're looking at doing here.
The only question, that was in the back, right?
Right after the.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
right behind us.
It's the very last thing. It says, okay, the question I had, does the CSD have rules on it, and does this mirror that? We need to follow up on that to find out what
Yeah.
the master restrictions, local ordinances, any of that says. Make sure that we're in compliance with that.
There's also a compliance for mobile food vendors. If you're at the school within like midnight to 30 minutes after final bell, we have to meet a certain level of nutritional requirement, so you might want to include that.
Actually, that should be articulated in there also. Good point, very good point. You in the wellness committee too?
No, but I did just talk to Bernice because I'm trying to schedule a mobile food vendor.
Oh, okay. Perfect.
And then
They work well
also in the attachment is a certificate of insurance and liability. I want to put this on the civics permit website to provide to organizations for the type of insurance that they need to provide to the district based on our handbook, and also speaking with Keenan and Associates. It's just an example so that they're clear on the language and the additional addendums.
Okay, very good. And then you and I can follow up prior to the board meeting to make sure that we got everything included.
Yes.
Okay. Item C, advertising and promotion board policy ban, okay.
Did all those.
We did all those.
Oh, it's all included. All right,
You're on action items.
okay. Finally.
Finally.
Action items. Item A is the Indian Festival, Tier 3, Bethany NPR on September 6th.
It's a Sunday. But again,
When does school start?
August 12th.
August 12th.
Actually, I have a question about when school starts. The first day of school for students is August 12th, and the teachers are in on August 10th, I believe. Those days do not count in reference to our handbooks, is that right? Even though the teachers are in effect as in service days?
Basically, yes.
Correct, it's actual school days, so.
Kids' school day, like,
Students
Correct.
attending
Okay.
classes.
cool.
Yeah, the first actual school day. Because we want, yeah, we want everything to be ready for the kids. That's our intent. So,
I need more caffeine.
okay, unless anyone from the committee has anything, I would say this is not approved.
I'm going to say it's on a Sunday. I'm going to say that there is highly unlikely that any school-based event will occur on Sunday, September 6th. School would be open. I don't see any reason we wouldn't want to allow this use. That's my position. This is a Sunday, correct?
Correct.
Highly unlikely that any school-based event or school foundation-based event would occur on a Sunday. School foundation's not this school foundation, but as school foundation members, am I wrong? It's not a very common day for this type of an event. I would say that I'm going to guess we have other churches that have used the facilities in late August and September. That is actually the Sunday before Labor Day. Staffing might be an issue, and I'm not going to say that's not a problem. But the application part of the process, I don't see why we'd want to allow it.
That's
My personal
cover that
perspective.
one. You're not
I mean, there may be a higher rate you have to pay because it's a holiday weekend.
I think we have somewhere stated in here that we do not allow rentals in conjunction with a holiday.
No, we don't.
Oh, okay, we don't?
No, we
Is it?
don't.
It's
That was
not in
something
there?
they were that they were going to talk about.
Okay, so we don't have that.
It's not in there currently?
I don't
Well,
believe so.
perfect opportunity to talk about it.
Because we were done with the handbook.
No, I mean, is it the issue staffing?
Yes, it usually is.
So,
It's a 3-day holiday.
was this your event, sir?
No.
Anyone?
Sit here, it's not yours.
Okay. I would,
Not saying that we can't do it, it's just that it needs more planning involved because it is a holiday weekend.
My perspective is it's a Sunday. I don't see why we shouldn't want to allow this.
Pending staff.
That would be my recommendation to the group, yes.
There's an additional cost incurred, obviously, because it's a Sunday, though, right?
Not because it's Sunday, but they're tier 3.
Or do we not have custodians on Saturdays normally? So there's an additional cost for any weekend, right, for the custodians? So either way, there would have been an additional custodian cost for a weekend event. Okay.
Correct.
Okay, approved pending staffing.
Yeah.
Boys and Girls Scout Groups, Tier 2A, single classroom use, August 2015 to May 2016. 1 hour per week. So the issue is because of August?
Yes.
Do we have what date in August it starts?
They usually mirror the calendar, the school year, the calendar school year. And the Cub Scout, which is the Boy Scouts, are the last Wednesday of every month.
So school will be in session.
Yes.
Anyone see any reason why this shouldn't be approved?
Which one?
Item B. School will be back in session.
Oh, no, absolutely. I absolutely believe it should be approved.
Do we know what day?
It doesn't say what hour. I mean, does it make a difference?
I have multiple groups, one at each site, and they usually only use the classroom for an hour. We were trying to do a blanket approval instead of one individual per thing.
Hold on just a moment. As we move through these, now we're circumventing the system.
Yes.
Because, right. Now, we don't know, because they're 2A, does it conflict with other?
Just for perspective, we're talking about a single classroom, meaning any classroom they can find on campus.
Right. This one, right.
This is kind of a different thing here. This is just one classroom that the Boys and Girl Scouts have done, at least at Wickland, for years, and at a lot of the school sites for years. And if they're told they can't use room 300 today, they'll use 302.
Correct.
There's going to be a facility for this type of an event.
All right, I think we just need to be careful looking at these case by cases.
I agree.
Okay, so item B approved. Item C, CAM Learning Center, it's a Tier 2A, one classroom, August 24th to May 13th, 3 to 6 p.m.
Good evening.
Welcome back.
Thank you, Mr. President, and
How
people on the committee.
did the summer go?
Summer went fabulous. Thank you. The kids got a lot. I've got a lot of good things going on, and even at the end of the year, in case you guys don't know, had some students that were really struggling in class when it came to tests and ended up on honor roll after a couple months. So
Glad it worked
thank
out.
you guys for all your help. We appreciate that. It doesn't state it here, but we prefer Altamont, where we were last year, if it is available. Oh, that's okay, no problem. I just saw that and I just wanted to call that out. So I came up with the date of August 24th because I figured the first week of school was, getting in there, getting to figure out how things are going to go. That second week, they're really going to start getting that homework and getting into a groove. And that third week, we probably should be getting busy to help those students that struggle so that they can start off on the right foot and stay there.
Use of a classroom, I don't see any problem with that.
To me, this is just like the Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts.
As long as since school started, it's not an issue. Thank you very
thank
much.
you.
Appreciate it. Item D, Mountain House Hope Community Worship Church. It's a 2B. They want the Cuesta NPR on 8/16.
Through, I'm guessing.
Marvin is here, and it's every Sunday.
I'm going to guess every Sunday.
Every Sunday, 7:30 to 10:30 a.m.
And they do go around the school calendars, so whenever there's a week off, they typically will take that Sunday off before the week, so we don't run into staffing issues to set up for their event.
Okay, and the reason it's coming before the committee is because of the start date?
Correct.
Okay. So the only thing that we're really here to discuss are the dates that are in August, correct? August and September.
Yeah, because we don't allow until October. It's back to the whole 60-day thing.
Right.
I'm going to go back to the same thing that I mentioned, the one before. It's a Sunday.
Sunday.
If I would just say that this is something where you've asked for the busiest campus, if I'm not mistaken, as far as the multipurpose room. So if there are other events that get scheduled, there might be move necessitated by that. I don't know how much that
Not a
would
problem.
impact you, but I'm in the same boat as this. I don't know what you voted on tier one, but I would agree that a Sunday thing, it shouldn't be a big deal.
The only time that it affected it was Mountain House Youth Basketball. And during the time of their playoffs, we made sure they were actually really accommodating and starting after or making sure the games were scheduled on Saturday.
It seems like people are coming here for, looking on the list, there's a ton of Sunday stuff in August and September. Is there a way to open it up so that they could reserve Sundays? 'Cause I'm not sure we're going to say no to a single
They
thing that's on
can't,
a
but
Sunday.
they can't, but I can put it in for them based on the request that they emailed to me.
So, I mean, do we care about blacking out Sundays during September and August?
After school starts.
After school starts.
Yeah, that's what I mean, yeah.
Right.
I'm pretty sure we're going to approve them all.
Yeah, and I think my concern is that we're going to get multiple organizations of the same category that are competing for the same time, and we don't have any means to know. I mean, we need the software to help us out with this. That was the whole point of purpose. So I kind of have to agree. I think that we need to open it up for at least.
Because, for example,
at least
your
the
church
weekends.
could have been here last year, but we may be bumping a church who didn't know that they could get this exemption, who've been
Understand.
practicing in the facilities for 5 years. And we have a tie-breaking rule in that system. And it's not that you couldn't use another facility, of course, if they're all rented out first.
Or there's
Correct.
someone else lower on the same list. that,
Exactly
you know,
right.
that we have.
That's what I was going to say, yeah, for that matter, you could have,
Creating a conflict
yeah,
ourselves.
somebody who's number A on our list could have come up before you, and we could have said yes to them.
And we are definitely flexible. That's not a problem.
Yeah, I'm just, if we're going to approve like all the Sundays, it seems like we should just approve all the Sundays.
Well, I don't.
Or find a way so that you can,
Provide all staff coverage, yeah.
yeah, find a,
What I think we need to
Wording
do is I
makes
think we
sense.
need to send them, we need to go back to the software and, because the software can calculate the 501c3 establishment date, which just creates the
Tiebreakers.
selection tiebreakers for us.
You can't just open the Sundays, you have to open an entire
Can't
block.
have more than one person. It's first come, first serve once you open it.
Whoa, time out. First come, first serve. I thought that that was the whole purpose of looking at the tax exemption.
Correct, but if he goes in and he reserves the date, another organization can't go in, because once they submit it, it's locked. So they
That's
would
why we
still have to
created
submit to me.
First 30 days.
That's why we created the window
Yes.
to let people put in the application so we could do that. That was why we did that, because otherwise, we were trying to get
It's a
away from the
free-for-all.
first come, first serve. This was the Andy Sue issue.
so you're saying then that we can't do that because the tier ones may request a bunch of Sundays?
No, because multiple tier 2As might request the same Sunday.
Then it would go first come, first serve.
No.
No, it goes to whoever's
What
the.
we've created
latest.
is that it goes to their 501c3 status establishment date. That was how we determine tiebreakers within the same tier.
Seems like a lot of extra work.
Well, you remember when Andy was
Because
standing there
What was going
saying.
to happen is organizations like Mountain House Little League were going to get bumped. And Andy didn't like that. He's the longest standing organization, or Mountain House Flag Football, with longest standing organization in Mountain House. How can I get bumped? It's first come, first served wasn't fair, so that's why we created that policy.
I'm not going to comment on Andy Sue's opinion right now.
No,
So I'm going to skip the commentary on Andy Sue's opinion on fair.
forget the name, just
I don't think
And
the
this is
creation
something
date's
that we
any
did.
fairer than first come, first serve in reality. I mean, the early bird gets the worm, but it's too late for that to matter at this point, so.
I'm just going to disagree. I do believe that those organizations that have been serving the community for a long time shouldn't get bumped by an organization that showed up today for the first time ever. And because they got up at 12:01 on the day the calendar opens and reserve everything.
Yeah, I mean, a click of a mouse determines.
They're not actually bumping them. In theory, they actually own the spot, and the other person's not being allowed to bump them, so.
Right.
I mean,
But
it's not
the whole
exactly
point
same.
was we set that up on purpose for that.
It's fine.
For
Yeah,
that.
it's fine.
It'd be nice to be able to do that, but, you know.
So we can't open all Sundays. I think we've just agreed to that then.
Well, if I might suggest a possibility, if the software is adaptable for it, maybe those that are requesting a Sunday reservation be able to submit their applications in May.
Like an earlier Sunday reservation seems, yeah, that seems reasonable. Of course, I'm not using the software, so what I think seems reasonable.
What would have to happen is I would have to manually put in every single day for the weekdays and leave the weekends open for them to submit apps. Because when we block off a chunk of time, it's blocked off from September 1st to October 31st. And then when I set up the school calendar for the remainder of the year, I have to put those dates in individually.
So what if we, rather than,
Couldn't you just-
I I don't see a way to get beyond this method where they have to come in before we open stuff up, but if we're going to approve the Sundays, then I think we should get in here the information that we need to say, okay, wait, Cam Learning Center wants this Sunday, this church wants this Sunday, this church wants that Sunday, who gets the tiebreaker? We'd have to have that information in order to make the decisions, because I don't see how the software solution would work without a ton of staff time.
For the initial
That's how I did it.
application process.
Yeah, last year when I did it manually, I did it through Outlook, and then for every school I color coded, and then I put every organization into my Outlook, and then printed out a schedule and made sure that there weren't overlapping times or dates. I can still do it in civics permits by loading them in there, and then making sure there aren't any overlapping dates, because it will not let me schedule once I put it in.
So in civics permits, you're blocking out blocks of dates. So in this particular case, you're blocking September through August is one block, like start 9/1 in, or start 8/1 in 9:30. You wouldn't necessarily have to do every day, where you could just do Monday through Saturday. You'd have to do like 6 entries, right, as opposed to like 60, right? Or I guess
Not
10
the way
or
that
8
it's
or
set up
something.
currently, no.
Really?
Yes.
You could do a whole block of a month, but not a block of 5 days.
Correct. Because it's under the user settings, the way that it is, how Alvina has to administrate it. But it's not something, I could ask to see if maybe we can add multiple entries. I can ask.
Oh, I get it. You can only block one thing at a time. Okay. Yeah. You got me. So.
So I'm going to say,
I'm okay with the Sunday for church.
Provided we have staff coverage.
And all we're talking about right now are the dates in August and September. Other than that, you're going to have to just submit your application when the time comes up and then compete with everyone else. Okay.
for October 1 through.
So we will, so it's approved for August and September. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for participating in this crazy process.
And I don't envy your position. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Item E. Can you present item E for us?
Are these also all Sundays?
As far as I'm concerned, you guys are gods for me today. Thank you, Mr. Nielsen. I'm supposed to see God in everybody. I see it in you. All my events are Sundays, and we appreciate any support.
I'll move to approve all the Sunday ones too.
Hold on.
I don't have to move, do I?
Hold on.
This one's,
Yeah, in
So
August
item
and
E is
September.
for Bethany on the 16th, which is after school starts from 3 to 6 p.m. What day is it?
3 days.
Correct. This is the first one. It's a single event, and then they're going to have going forward every Sunday beginning on the next line.
but the first one is before school starts.
I apologize. Actually, there was a correction that we sent in. It's actually the 23rd, not the 16th, which is also Sunday, but it's the 23rd, August 23rd.
Actually, there's some confusion there then, because item F, which is also your item, starts 8/9. So when does your actual request start?
So just on the 23rd, we have an exception where we're taking 5 hours, but every other Sunday from 9th through the December, it's 2 hours.
Okay, so it starts on the 9th, but on the 23rd, you're just taking extra long.
Yes,
Okay.
correct. Thank you.
And I'm going to start with,
Hold on a second.
But that one starts before school starts.
Yeah,
that's my first issue.
The
9th is
It could be
before
after
school.
that. No, you could start the 16th.
So I clearly wouldn't want to approve even before school starts at all.
No. Neither do I. So as far as item E is concerned, 23rd, 3 to 8. Anyone have a problem with that?
No.
As long as we have staff coverage.
Again,
Pending staff coverage approved. Item F.
Addend that to say the 16th, right?
yeah, if
Instead
you
of
amended it to say this August 16th through September 30th, which is what we've been telling everybody else, and then for October 1st on, you'd have to go through the normal processes. I don't see why we wouldn't. It's not any of the other schools. It's not a conflict, so I would recommend that.
Anyone else have a problem? No. Staff? So pending
Thank you.
staffing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item G, Mountain House Wolverines. It's a 2A, Mountain House High School, large and small gyms, Monday through Friday, 2-hour time slot. There's not, what are the dates?
They didn't have dates, and I had a little bit of concern there because I know Ben Faubert had come to a meeting and was concerned about high school facilities.
We're not going to do anything at the high school facilities until we hear back from the high school staff. They're
And
pretty adamant.
2-hour time slots.
And there's no one here to tell us.
And there's no date.
Right, and it'd be nice, I'd like
He,
to get a
he
few
didn't have
questions.
dates because he was waiting on what was being discussed tonight because of the September 1st through September 10th, and then 30 days out from that, what that might be for them.
Which we're going to have to come back to that conversation. We're not.
Well, I'd say he'd have to reapply. I mean, he's not here to ask questions.
Nope, it's
By the
just
time
not
we have
approved.
another meeting,
Yeah, not.
It'll be
not
after
approved.
school starts, so, no. I'm sorry.
So item G not approved, item H.
I'm in the same,
Same
I'm
issue
in
on
the same
item
boat.
H.
Okay. Item I, Mountain House Royal Kings, it's a 2A. They want the high school large and small gyms 2 days a week, August 15th.
Same issue, it's the high school, right?
Well, and again, 2 days, what times?
I believe this man's going to tell us.
Hey, all right. We can ask questions.
Yeah,
This
I'm
helps.
I'm general manager for Royal Kings, which is AAU non-profit organization from Mountain House. First of all, I want to congratulate everyone in the Mountain House because our organization participated in California State Games. 10th grade, 16U won the bronze medal yesterday.
Congratulations. Very good.
So we would like to request for midweek, Wednesday, Thursday, from 7 to 9 p.m., all the way through academic school year.
Wednesday and Thursday, 7 to 9 p.m.
Yes.
This is for the high school gym, right? So we basically have to table it until we hear back from the high school.
We're not going to be able to approve any request for the high school before school starts, and then after school starts, they need an opportunity to reserve for high school sports organizations before you can make your request.
Okay.
So as far as the high school is concerned, that's not an option.
Okay.
Are you interested in any other site?
Altamont?
Altamont? And
Looks okay.
all we can talk about is, well,
August 16th through September 30th.
Nobody else has requested it.
hold on a second, but we don't know what the site's.
Tentative right for
So,
the site. yeah.
so they need to have an opportunity first.
Pending site.
We will have other organizations. I printed out a list for you guys and I highlighted it. Other organizations who have not contacted me yet that I know will be using or requesting for the K through 8 sites, which would be Mountain House Youth Basketball. The Mountain House Wolverines do use the K through 8s as well as Royal Kings for basketball.
Wednesday and Thursday.
It's in your packet.
So because,
Highlighted.
yeah, because of,
So is 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. a problem, out of curiosity? When does the custodian typically go home?
Well, it could be for
10
high
o'clock?
school.
Well, if our high school's leaving later, right?
well, hold on.
I mean, at the
We're talking
K through
K-8s,
eights.
they go home at 10 o'clock from the K-8s.
Oh, okay, never
So
mind.
there would be an hour charge for custodial if you used it between those hours, just so you know.
So pending.
But we can't make a decision tonight. We can't until until the site has an opportunity to make their reservations.
Yeah.
Understand.
So the earliest that you could have, you'll have to go through the process, the earliest you'll be able to get is October.
Okay.
So you have to submit an application online when it opens up, and then go through that process and see.
Right.
And we're still going to go back to the process in a few minutes, so you can hear about that, or you can watch it on TV.
Okay, thank you.
Later. Thank you. So that's not approved. Item J, Altamont Pass Academy. They want the Mountain House High School small gym.
From 3 p.m.
Someone
to 6
present
p.m.?
from Altamont Pass Academy?
It's 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. anyway, right? Isn't someone almost
There's no
assuredly going to be
chance.
using the Mountain House High School
During
gym
the
from 3
school
p.m. to
week.
6 p.m.?
No, not approved.
There's no way.
Item K, West Coast Soccer, they're 2A. They want the high school stadium.
I had to hold off on booking anything for the stadium right now. Currently, Lavinia was not sure when the playoffs would happen. If our boys or our team made it to the playoffs, they would need the stadium. So I've already let Aaron and Becky know that it's pending on how the season goes. And then later in the year, we can book that. But I wanted to get it on there because it was a request early.
They're asking for 10:30 or 11:06.
They need to just
Correct.
apply. They need to just go through the application process. So it doesn't even come before the committee, so not approved, I guess.
But not denied.
Right.
Right. I guess we should have one, yeah, well, let's not call it, for the record, it's just no action, because doesn't need to come before the committee.
We're flexible.
Just follow the process, yeah.
And I enjoyed the heck out of it. I enjoyed the heck out of that event last year. I'm just saying, I had a blast with that soccer event last year, the All-Star game and stuff. That was a ton of fun.
My son loved it.
Any other, since you're here, anything else as far as using the stadium or the policy or the handbook's wide open right now for us to discuss, so. is there
Sure.
anything-
I just, obviously, to talk about basketball coming up, I'm with Mountain House Youth Basketball now. I'm no longer with Mountain House Little League as of about 11 days because I'm going from another board. My wife would kick me if I jumped on another one. So.
Congratulations, I admire you for being
Yeah.
able to actually step down from something.
I know. Well, my kids went away, but that's another time, right? Okay. My only question was with all these competing basketball programs, how that's going to shake down, and that's why I was coming tonight representing Mountain House Youth Basketball. And I know that September 1 is when it's going to start, but
I'm sorry, let me back up. I just wanted to clarify as far as the other organization with the Hurricanes, was there anything?
These are Hurricanes.
Mountain House Youth Basketball.
That's not them.
West Coast Soccer and Mountain House Youth Basketball. Sorry.
We'll get you in a minute, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Hurricanes is the same thing. They want to use Mountain House High School Stadium for Saturday games. They would be flexible on the dates because I told them it had to revolve around whatever the high school, so I have to wait.
I
till
would
their
also
schedule.
clarify, the high school schedule's got to be done. We have to know if they've scheduled a Saturday game already. There should be something. Lavinia has to have these dates already.
I'm sure she does. She hasn't
No,
been
and
here.
so
to
I would just say, that this, we went through this last year, we even talked to them about this last year, that, we could look to tentatively approve stuff while we waited to get their schedule, and that they understood that they could get bumped back to one of the elementary fields under certain circumstances, but.
I guess direction from the committee to staff would be please contact the superintendent and let the superintendent know to contact the high school staff and tell the high school staff, please get your stuff into the system.
I mean,
because you're screwing up the process.
Personal perspective, when we know the dates in advance, those should be put in. And I know the entire fall schedule for every sport is already done. It's been done for months. That stuff should be in our system somewhere so we could get the answers to this for folks. So I would just appreciate.
Please make
if
sure
we
the
could have-
superintendent gets that message.
The only one of these we would have needed to vote on anyway is
September
9/19, right?
19, right. So
I mean, I'm not sure if we can agree that
I
we would
think
let
we
them
should
use it if the high
tentatively
school is
approve
not doing it, but
I think we should tentatively approve 919.
if the high school's not
The
using
high
it,
school's not already being used by,
then the rest of them, they can apply during the
because
regular
the rest
process.
they can go through the normal application process.
Yes, everything is and staff coverage.
Item M, the Tracy Junior Bulldogs, they want the stadium, it's going to be the same thing.
Yes, and they did corresponding dates, 9/5/96, 9/20, 9/26, because they weren't even sure what their schedule was going to be. They just know they're going to need one of those days.
Oh, okay.
They need one of all of those days. They just want one day.
Just one day for each course in it, because it's
Yeah,
a
no.
Saturday, Sunday that they're
want
asking for,
9/5
but
or
they may
9/6.
just need
Oh, they want
Saturday.
9/5 or 9/6.
Why?
But I also
9/26
told
or
her it was
9/27.
pending high school availability,
Have a tier for them? I noticed we
There-
had a question mark on that.
because I didn't get further information because I wasn't even sure we could have.
That was, I will, if you read that young woman's newspaper over there, there was a whole article recently about this group and a serious concern that they had within Tracy Unified regarding their not-for-profit status. And I would recommend that staff peruse that article, because if I'm not mistaken, they were originally classified as a non-for-profit, which was not accurate. That's my recollection of the article. I haven't read it in a week. I don't memorize these
From a
things. so-
committee standpoint, I don't think we can approve the request.
Not at all.
Because the high school has made it, abundantly clear that
I'm also concerned about high school track and field usage for non-Mountain House residents.
Please and thank you.
So not approved?
not approved.
Not approved.
I could go on, but I won't.
And then item
Help
N,
you
the
out.
facility use handbook revision. Before we did, this was the actual process to approve.
Yeah, we have to approve what we did.
Right.
We did what we did, then we have to approve what we
Because
did.
all of this information will go to the board for review before they can take action on it.
Robert's Rules of Order and
So,
stuff like that.
I realize it's late, I apologize, but now is the opportunity to get this done. So we need to go back and have a conversation around this application process, or the window to get the applications in, how they're filtered, and then the approval process. This all started before both of you were part of the committee. We discussed this in the very beginning, Shane and I, and a lot of community people. What's that? Right. And what we had decided was the process would be people would submit applications during a window of a week. Once we received those applications, we would take those applications, sort them by tier, And then within the tier, we would sort them by their established 501c3 date. And also Mountain House rosters that had majority Mountain House kids versus not. That would create the order to start approving requests for facilities during those times. I guess my first question is, everything that I've articulated up to this point, can the software do that for us? Is it able to put in and for approval the establishment date to set the order?
No, it has to be manually reviewed.
That's stupid.
I know.
There's no way to rank. You wouldn't necessarily have to put in the actual establishment date. You would just need some sort of a rank of priority of nonprofits.
I guess if we
No, I take that back. I'll have to look into that further. There is a selection that I can drop it down for insurance, so I would think there might be something that they can either add, or I just haven't seen, to drop it down to 501c3. Can you?
Because we only have to do it once a year to create this priority list. And then once the priority list is established, can we have it programmed in the system to, make that determination based on when they apply for spots? Who gets it for, a ranked choice? Who gets it first? Can the system do that?
Just checking that.
And then moving forward, what was going to happen is that was going to be the selection process for organizations. Tier 1 organizations first, and then 2A, 2B, and 3, and if there were tiebreakers, the 501c3 establishment would come in.
If we could talk to them, there might be just some way to just blanket.
Write the code?
Just not necessarily, there's probably a spot in there to rank them somehow, but I don't know. Insured.
And then there was also discussion, once this list was established, once all these dates were given, we would hold a committee meeting, and if there were conflicts,
Right.
we could review, that would be the opportunity to review it and try and hash it out.
So, but I had believed that it was always you're going to review them and then set a priority, and if you would tell them what the priority was, and if they had an issue, then they'd come before us and we'd talk about it, right?
Correct. I have them manually right now. I have them manually right now in an Excel spreadsheet, because that's how I kept track of it last year.
Well, the idea was that we were going to get all the scheduling done in one shot. And then after that, it's first come, first serve.
Right.
But that initial, if an organization came in and they were tier 1 and they said, hey, I want it every day of every week, you got it. And that was it.
I think what will have to be done, and because maybe we're new, is try to encourage the school sites to get their schedules in sooner and have the application window earlier. That's the only way around this.
I think the conversation that we're going to have is, it needs to be done in June. It
I
just has to be.
received a wise and informed message from someone saying that would be an opportunity, and that is what a lot of schools do, is at least for the first month. You plan your window before the school year ends, or at least at the very end of the school year, which would make some sense for everybody involved.
Is that realistic?
I think it could be done on a,
I'm sorry, sir, you're going to have to come up and use a microphone. Got him.
So I think realistically, people can put in one, as long as everybody knows the flexibility has to be there for something that comes along during the summer. So I think, most things happen over time. So it kind of recycles itself. I think we could.
Is it realistic that the teachers could have their schedules and know what they're going to do the next, in June for the next school year?
How about just for the 1st through September 30th? Really, that's all we're talking about here, is between the first day of school and effectively September 30th. Is it reasonable to say before May ends, they could have just that 6 days?
So assemblies, open house.
Well, but first they have to apply.
No, but this would, we could push the application date up and do the whole thing.
Yes.
If they have their schedules.
Well, and I'm taking a look at what's in the calendars right now, and it looks like, if you look at your screens, I can see that Wickland has plugged in events already in August and September. This is Wickland. And if we go over to the
Wickland
high
Science
school,
Night, Science Olympiad practice.
Right, and here's the high school.
Somebody's on top of things.
Here's some for the high school as well. Got band camp, nothing on Sundays.
Because all these things recycle, So there may be something new that comes along, but I think we certainly.
I know when we first started this process, we got pushed back saying that you had to have your stuff in the beginning of the year. If we're going to be doing this and be in this business, we have to we have to get the stuff in by June.
Well, I think part of it was the shell shock of systems.
Sure.
So now the system's in place and we're finding out that the whole for the community is we need to get some stuff forward. And if they already know their science Olympiad schedule because they've been doing it for 3 years, those things, and I think it's worthy of sitting down. The principals come back in a couple weeks so we can start that conversation. But I can say that I think we could ask them to do that. And if someone's hair catches on fire, we'll have to figure out why. But I think for the most part, we should be pretty accurate to it.
I think this needs to be a discussion with the principals at a board meeting.
Okay.
So we'll get that on a future agenda, when we get back to the school year.
Sounds good.
Just so we can, I think the rest of the board is well aware, of the nosebleed that this process is and how difficult it is and how hard it is for organizations that are trying to do good for the community.
Right.
So we need to be a good partner and
And with the new expectations, sometimes that helps people get organized. So like one school who's already got it in is very organized. You might have someone a little bit shaky at another place, but it helps raise the bar a little bit too.
Like I say, from my perspective, I just worry about, for example, we do have a new principal. So would she have had that stuff planned? Would the other one have had that planned? Would she want to make changes to things because of a new vision she has for the school? And then funding, may control this or that, but Hansen is going to come online too. And to allow, we'll probably have to set the same rule for Hansen that we did for Altamont, which is a 1 year no rule thing.
It's in the policy.
That's my only concern with it is that we have to, at certain facilities, say, hey, for example, we have a new principal at one of the sites this year, you need to be a little more lenient in telling, when we get tentative recommendations for those folks for that period next year, just to say, hey, if we have another changeover next year, this site, you need to understand that there could be changes and it's tentative. And I'm hoping that's what all of our stuff says anyway, that, that there's, the approval's tentative based on the needs of the district for those early approvals.
Okay, thank you, sir. So, for staff, are we sticking to that same process, or, are you guys under a different impression? I know we've been all over the place with this and had several conversations. I just want to make sure that we're all clear and everything's done appropriately, because I don't want an organization to get the shaft.
I agree. I
So,
follow it, yeah.
is, Shane, is that your recollection of what we discussed also? Of the most recent conversation?
Yeah,
I guess.
So what we're trying to do then basically is try to require staff to provide us before the end of the school year.
Beyond that, I'm just talking about this application process.
Oh.
When about organizations, we give them that week window to turn in all their requests.
Oh, yes.
Put them in order.
And then you rank them, and then whoever gets theirs, and the ones who don't get their dates gets notified it didn't work, and then after then, floodgates.
We need the system, here's what we need the system to have, because what you just said is if one person reserves, that's it, nobody else can. We need the system to be able to
differentiate.
Yeah, to give us, people can apply for dates, and then we have to go in and approve the ones based on.
Yeah, there has to be a
our criteria.
non-locking window, a window where you can do applications and the system doesn't lock it and multiple applications can come in on the same date. There's got to be a way to do that. It has to be where.
Otherwise, what's going to happen is we're going to have to assign dates to organizations and say, okay,
Tier 1.
you can apply on this date, you can apply on this
Exactly
date,
right.
because that's the order that we put them in.
Yeah, but that's
or else
just.
you're going to have to do it manually.
But then that just gets insane.
It's 1 week of just nonsense, but it's only 1 week. After that, we use the system. So.
I will check.
There's got to be.
And we're going to need a
way
decision on that before the next board meeting. So, it's going to go beyond the committee level, and I'll work with staff to make sure that the board gets a recommendation on that. Unless you guys have any other input, was that process sound, after all the input we took from the community, that's what seemed like the most reasonable.
Yeah, I think the 1 week period seems as fair as you're going to be able to get for the most part. It would be better, obviously, if the application could sort of handle all of that automatically, but, so.
It sounds like we
Early
might
on.
have to manually enter it, or, I don't know. We should tell them what we're looking for as far as this window, and have an option to go in, approve and deny.
There's got to be a way that you
This would have
cannot
been
lock.
a lot smaller if we had that window earlier.
Oh, yeah.
Had so many of them that needed the exception.
Right.
Of course.
Well,
Right.
because it's a 60-day window, and a lot of these folks, Cam Learning Center is a great example. She doesn't want to wait until the end, till 6 weeks after school starts to provide interventions for students who are in our schools that want that extra outside tutoring. it's not going to help. And she's trying to do the right thing, and we're telling her, well, yeah, you have to come and do this. I do, the application's got to have a way to not lock. It just has to. It's just a function of talking to them.
On this page, when you create your account, you do have to choose your type of group.
You create an account, yes.
There's probably something in there that allows you to have
Exactly.
tier 1s override tier 2As, override tier 2Bs. The way you're explaining it now, it sounds like if a tier 3 were to go in and reserve a location, I know that the tier 3 isn't available to reserve yet. If they could, though, then the tier
No.
1, for example, couldn't reserve it, right?
Yeah, I'm thinking that there's a way that multiple people can go in and reserve multiple dates by being unlocked based on tier group. And then at that point, being able to sort it by tier 1A, 2A, 2B, 3.
Right.
And then from there, then doing the sort like Matt wants to do based on 501(c)(3)s if they're.
And then what we're going to have to do is have the flexibility that we do that just for that one time, and then everything else,
Correct.
because as soon as we get that established and everyone gets their dates in, after that, it's first come, first serve.
Yeah, if your list of groups is smaller, that you have to decide which one had the earlier start date or whatever, it's going to be much quicker, I would imagine. Yeah.
And then we're going to try and do the same process for the fields when it comes in December. Okay, so we'll work on that.
I do have one more question, and it's not stated in the handbook, so I just need clarification. Organizations that submit for facility use, if they're monopolizing facilities for their sports practices, what are reasonable applications? So what would you consider a reasonable application for monopolizing use?
Well, and that was one of the things that we talked about as to, that's why we wanted to bring it back to the committee for approval.
They have to pay for it. That was, I thought, was the plan. If they're going to reserve 75 dates, they need to pay for 75 dates. And if they don't plan to use them, they can't
Correct,
reserve them.
but since we have, it was just a question, if they're using the facility 5 days a week at 3 different facilities and they're edging out anybody else for the chance to get it because they're monopolizing 4 hours at a time?
But did they
We
pay
talked
for it?
we talked about dealing with those on a case-by-case basis at the meeting. And we had this conversation about, asking the organizations in front of the other organization, hey, can you give up some of these dates so this organization can have some? We talked about this. So that would be the solution is, we wanted it before anything was approved, it come before the committee so we could see it and work with the organizations to hash out any problems.
Right. We also discussed like abusive system effectively, where we could lower their tiered status in the event that they were abusing the system in such a manner.
Correct. That if especially cancellations, that was the discussion around, I believe,
Right.
if
they reserved a
reserve them
bunch
all
and
and then
then
just
started
cancel them,
canceling.
that we would.
It's the anti-supervision.
It's something you'll need to be monitoring and letting us know. So-and-so reserved 50
Secret
dates and then,
probation.
canceled 30 of them.
Okay, so I'll work on that with staff to take to the board. Other than that, anyone have anything else in the handbook? Approved. Okay, thank you. Come on up, public comment. You're up.
You had more, right? Aaron.
Sorry about that.
No, I think you
wanted to try to stick to
answered-
the agenda.
No, I completely hear you on that. I think you answered my question. I was just concerned about, Lori had mentioned, all these dates or some of them, like for instance, basketball gyms going past that October date when Mountain House Youth Basketball would be looking for them. And we were waiting till September 1 to get our dates reserved. And I thought, well, do we have to get them in earlier? And then it's just going to be around, I guess, figuring out if the Wolverines, trump, because I think the other problem you might have, Corey's saying, hey, a tier 1 would trump that, it would be easy, but you're going to have multiple 2As, but then I know it goes to their, nonprofit
the nonprofit
status.
date. What do you
And
think
is
of
it-
that?
And is it in how long they've been in Mountain House or how long their nonprofit's been around?
How long the nonprofit's been around?
Okay, just for clarification.
Yeah, what do you think about that?
I think it's fair. I think it was a reasonable thing to come up with, and I don't know right now. I don't know where Mountain House Youth Basketball falls with Wolverines. Any other basketball organization, I feel like they're gonna stay ahead of. But I guess my only thing I would be thinking about is if somebody came from Tracy and said, "Hey, well, we have a nonprofit," but then again, if they're coming from Tracy, they would fall to a lower status because we're Mountain House. They'd have to be
If they're not-
majority
depending on how many
Mountain
they
House
serve,
kids, right? Who they're
And that
serving.
we talked about that as well.
And that's
And that's
kinda
where
what I saw it.
that policy came from, with the majority of your roster has to be Mountain House kids.
Yeah. No, I think it's completely fair.
Yeah, we spent a lot of time talking
We
about
actually
that.
had both the flag football and soccer in mind because there are a bunch of soccer groups trying to come out here to use the fields because Tracy's not letting it. And the idea was, well, you have to have at least 50% of our residents, which the West Coast part that uses it out here is predominantly Mountain House residents. But they also haven't been a 501c3 for all that long either. So,
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your help and all, everybody's, all your comments. Any other public comment? Sure. Come on up.
I'm sorry, I had to step out for another conference call with my Air Force unit, so I'd much rather have been here. Whew. All right, so I may have missed some things, but I just wanted to reemphasize from what my wife wrote down in notes is that it sounds like this current year, we're not going to be able to use the facilities till October the 12th, which is yikes.
October 1st.
Yeah.
October 1st in this case, because the current version of the facilities handbook says 30 days after September 1st.
And if there's any
Right,
way
or
to get
something along
any
those lines.
sooner, I mean,
No, it's
is there
gonna be- no,
flexibility
you're
in
right.
the system?
I'm sorry. It's going to be October 12th because it's 30 days after school starts. That's what we're
We're going to change it to that.
School starts
that
October.
becomes active, the amendment becomes active now, not based
as
on
soon as the
when.
board
he
approves
did-
it, first meeting in August.
Oh, okay, so that would be.
Because August 12th is when school starts, so you're talking 2 months after school starts.
Yes.
Correct.
Before we can use the facility, where in the years past, for 8 years, we've always started around the 1st
Right.
of September.
And what's been happening, because of the number of organizations there are now,
Right.
the school sites were having to hold basketball practice outside because they couldn't get into their own gym. Because
Well,
organizations.
That's not fair. We already talked about that, you
Right.
know,
and
anybody like
this
us, we should get
was-
kicked out. We know
This was a
that.
solution to the problem.
All right.
So.
But is there any
created this.
flexibility, like if the school locks down, if the school knows by the beginning of September what their dates are gonna be, why do we gotta wait 42 more, 42 more days before we could even use the facility when she already knows in the calendar, we're clear, we can go in. Can we be allowed to get in sooner?
Well, we can have, depending on what our next meeting is, we can try and make an exception to the rule.
That's not, because you guys are showing the calendar, it's like there's some stuff up there, so obviously.
but
The
somebody's
calendar was
putting
not
something
complete,
in.
though.
But the current.
Those are
but the-
school events.
Right.
The current, the current policy with the staff is we'll let the principals come back, kind of get their feet on the ground, let their staff come back and then figure out what their events are going to be, the school events.
Right.
So they can reserve the facilities. And that has to happen before we can start allowing people to
I
use our
understand.
facilities.
I think
And it's going to, and we don't know, plus the 30 days
A really-
processing time here.
A really important piece for you is that I do believe you use the facilities at the school site with a brand-new principal. You're at
Yeah, we've been,
Cuesta,
I
aren't
don't
you?
know, we went through 2 or 3 principals.
Are you at
at least.
Bethany? I thought you were at Cuesta, I'm sorry.
They're at Bethany.
You're at Bethany?
Bethany.
Okay, but then,
We've had Schwankhaus.
I always thought you were at Cuesta, I'm sorry, my mistake. But I also don't believe any of Bethany's calendar was in here.
It was up there for a minute, I did see. Bethany
Our calendar was,
multipurpose.
but not your, and therein lies the problem. Some teachers are operating, and principals specifically are operating under the rule that they have until certain
Right.
dates to put in their information. So
And
it's
then-
not like it's a blame thing. They have that time and they're exercising it. So there were other people who came in and submitted applications for dates during the week in September, and we turned them down like we would.
Yeah, I was here for that part.
So it's not like it's a picking on you. It's a function
No,
of
no.
we're allowing the school sites to set this up under the rules they were operating on before they left.
Right.
And I don't think it would be fair to our administrators to change the rules before they even get back and have an opportunity to do it.
Right.
Another
So-
piece that you may have missed is that we're going to we're going to work with the superintendent to see if we can get the principals to give us their information before they go home from the summer.
I was
And
here
if we
for
can do
that.
that, then that would,
I think right before I left, the thought that came to mind was, why don't we open up the application process in the 1st of August? And then you've got all month of August to look at them, and come September 1st, by that point, school's been in for 3 weeks. You should know your schedule, and come September 1st, you can say, hey, we're releasing the dates, here you go.
I don't know that by September 3rd, it's realistic that we would know what the school events are.
Besides this year, at this time last year, August 12th was not the school start date.
Right.
So, it was actually, we moved it, and I got to hear all about how some people were not happy that we moved school up a week this year. It was August 19th, 21st, something like that last year. So it's a function of the fluidity of all of these things that we have to pay attention to. And I get that puts you guys, under the screws, so to speak, but I can't change the rules of the game on the principals before they are even back.
Understood.
So-
My only point was that if there's some flexibility, if you guys know sooner, then let us know so we can get in there, because the sooner we get in there, the more money you'll make, because it's sitting there unused, and,
We're not making any money.
well, you're making more than you would
We're
be.
not in this to make money.
I think,
That's kind of how I feel sometimes.
Not what this is about.
I actually have a question. If he came back for the next meeting, when we had the school calendar and potentially for Bethany, and we approved him for dates, would we need a delay at that point? Like if we had our meeting in the middle of August and Bethany had submitted, could he then actually submit for dates in September? And do we need a 30-day delay, like
I don't know.
right now, for example?
We're talking about a tier 3 organization.
Well, I mean, I'm talking about someone who wants the space. I mean, you know,
how do we know that-
I don't know if someone else will want the space as well. It's not, they haven't asked.
Yeah, we haven't ever really had any issue with anybody. I think it was the Wolverines used to play basketball right after we left, but they've been off at another school ever since. So we've never really had any conflict besides school.
But there's a lot of
we should wait
additional
for-
organizations that are popping up every day that
Oh, I know.
making this process
I
difficult.
think we should
feel
wait for
like
the
I
other
should apply for
people.
nonprofit status.
We have to wait at least for the
better
principal.
We should definitely wait for the principal. I'm just saying, if after the principal scheduled his things, could he then come back before us? And does he need, would we need a 30-day delay if he came back before? Let's just say hypothetically this was September 1st's meeting. Could he come in and say, I want to get the room for September 5th? Could we say yes?
I just, again, my concern is if there's a tier 2 organization that wanted the same date, but they didn't have the same opportunity.
Well, I mean, are they not allowed to come in?
Well, what's going to happen is we're going to have another agenda like this, and then, I mean, I guess we can ask staff to put them all in order ahead of time and just do it that way.
Yeah, they should be in order
If we're
by
gonna do
tier.
that, we just need to push the process back. I guess it's going to be a one-time thing, because hopefully.
Right. Ideally, it will be fixed next year, but I'm just
Okay.
trying to get him
Yeah,
access as
I'm
early
just
as
trying to,
possible.
let's try to work with this year. I know you guys are going to get next year much better. I'm just trying to.
Right, well,
make
and
it so it's not so awful.
we're trying to look at processes. That's the goal, is to have a fair process. Speaking, well, let's come up with a date for the next meeting, and that.
To be clear, the easiest process for us is the 60-day rule. We're trying to do our best to accommodate everybody else, but the easiest process for the school district is 60 days. Sorry, we're doing everything we can to try to work with that. So I just want to clarify that the easiest thing we can tell staff is, I don't care, September and October, or August and September are closed. That's not what we're doing. We're trying to accommodate, and I hope that at least the folks who see this or hear it or don't understand that what we're doing right now, all of the time we're spending and the staff time we're allowing for is to try to help that side of the table and not this side.
Okay.
Matt, he did have one question that he emailed me today about now that his tier status has changed and he's been with Bethany for 8 years. If somebody comes in with a 2A tier status, that's going to bump them from their slot that they've had?
Yes. It will.
Yeah. So you might potentially force a business that's been here 8 years out of business.
Again, we're
Just saying.
providing a service that is not, our job is educating kids. That's what we do. We're renting facilities as a gesture of goodwill to the community. It's unfortunate, but with the number of organizations, we're forced into this position. This renting facilities is not what we would want to do at all. It's just,
Well, there's not much
been a
choice.
lot of-
There's nothing else here.
a lot of, and I understand that too, but that's an issue that needs to be taken up with the Community Services District, because development's their responsibility.
I talk up with Shay or Trimark. I've talked to them, and they're slow.
Yes, they're definitely on their own timeline.
I'm going to.
I feel for you, and, but again, we're just trying to create a fair and equitable process for all. Okay, so let's just review dates here. Principals are back
Oh, God.
next week,
Next Monday.
next Monday, the 27th. And then staff, full staff comes back when?
10th.
August 10th? So, August 10th is when the teachers come back.
August 10th is kindergarten orientation day, so I'm out that day.
Okay. No, I'm sorry. I'm just talking timeline. So as far as process, the principals don't even have opportunity to sit down and talk to ASB and some of these organizations until August 10th, right?
Right.
So if we gave them a week, what was that week that we talked about as far as accepting applications? And that was to give ample time for them to go over it.
It is.
But the whole point of the meeting is to review the applications.
Which is Memorial Day. Labor Day, excuse me.
Labor Day.
However, I'm not
September
bound
not
to
looking good at all.
Tuesdays and Thursdays anymore, starting August 18th. So I could do.
How about September 10th?
So we're skipping August.
Yeah, we're not gonna have a monthly meeting in August.
I don't know, I mean, if we were gonna give, I mean, what, the last thing that the principals were told was they had until September 1st.
Sure.
To give us their dates. So my concern is it better to tell an organization, sure, you can have it, and then as soon, next week we get the list and all of a sudden they're bumped? Or just tell them, hey, you gotta
okay with
wait
that.
for another week?
I'm
I'm thinking through this, I'm trying to figure out what's more fair for an organization.
We could probably have a short meeting in August. I mean, just in case we have public comments or something like that before the thing. It wouldn't necessarily be a long meeting. I didn't like the fact that we skipped a month.
Me too. I mean, there's a whole lot here. I mean, we found out about a May.
I mean, I'd rather come
an
in for an hour-long
application
meeting than
in
a 3-hour one.
You know,
So maybe a brief meeting in August would be best.
no milk and cookies. Anything after August 18th, I'm available any night of the week except for Friday.
Maybe August 24th?
Yeah, any day but August 25th, we have a WSF.
I could,
August 24th?
I would ask not the 27th.
You're still talking.
About 24th, can everyone do the 24th?
Yeah, I'm good for the 24th.
You don't have a game that night? Have you checked your
Football? No, it's, no.
preseason starts in the 2 weeks before that?
What day is that?
It's a Monday night.
Niners play the 23rd.
Okay, then 24th works for me.
So Monday, August 24th, 6:30 PM.
Yes, ma'am.
Sorry, when was the application month again, or week again? September 1st through the 4th?
10th.
Oh, good. So that sets us up nicely for like a July 14th meeting to review things too.
In September.
Yeah, whatever.
Actually.
That's
how
where I
about-
was.
Can we look at September also and just get it calendared?
I like the
14th
14th.
actually doesn't work for me, but the 17th does. Does that work for you?
I will be out of town on the 17th.
Okay,
It's a Thursday. How'd you jump to Thursday from Mondays?
because I'm working the other days. And we have a board meeting on the 16th.
I can do 21.
I will actually be out of town that whole week. Yeah, September's gonna be rough.
Can we do a,
skip the
can we do a
10th?
Sunday meeting?
What happened to the 10th? The 10th didn't work for you?
The 10th is ideal.
The 10th did? Somebody threw out the 10th.
Oh, yeah, 10th's good.
I mean, I know
Wait,
it
I
was
mean,
to Thursday, but
can Lori get everything together though for the 10th as far as we're going to review applications? It seems like their applications are ending on that day and we're going to have a meeting that night. Like, this seems like a very busy day for her.
Can you do it?
Okay. I'm okay with the 10th.
Okay, so 8:24 and 9:10.
6:30 PM.
I assume we'll get invites, right?
We'll get our
No.
reminders.
August 24th and September 10th.
Oh, we were trying to push up.
Thank you very much. That helps significantly.
It's his birthday, he's probably asleep.
Any other
27th of August, 'cause my wife will
future
come.
agenda topics? I think if we keep doing the same
I'm
stuff.
not, maybe not then. I will be at some point rehassling this group about the high school track.
I did have one question actually. When are we going to open up the high school fields for reservation?
The grass fields?
I know we talked about not doing it, but it's about to be year 2, and I thought that we talked about just not doing it for year 1, so I'm not sure if they're going to be
Permanent
ready.
use, you mean?
Well, I mean, yeah, for people to reserve, yeah. When are we planning to do that?
For high school, I'm just also worried about issues with water as well.
Well, let's put that on the next
Fields.
agenda, high school.
Yeah, I mean, we've definitely had the discussion before, and I know that we were holding off for seating and for some other things like that. I was just wondering where we were. So, okay, next meeting's fine.
Yeah, the perimeter fences, and that all had to do with the public, which we agreed the public would not be able to use, it would just be by permit only. So,
So we could do permit only, I suppose we can talk.
so now we'll have to do new signs. Oh, actually, same signs, I guess.
It would be fantastic.
Oh, right.
I guess we just put the
Yeah, same signs.
same signs, just different areas. Okay, so yeah, let's get the high school staff, athletic director and principal here for that meeting. So that'll be on the 24th agenda. Anything further? Thank you, folks. Thank you, committee, for being here. It was fun. Meeting adjourned.
That's one phrase for it. Not a phrase I'd use. What's on the 22nd? Why do I think there's something?
Fun night.
No, like, but on the PC.